Adamu is the overall chairman for this um, seminar. So thank you so much, Bro. And we also want to introduce Professor Ogun Shote, who is among us as the supervisor for the candidate, as co-supervisor. Oh, sorry, Professor Evelyn, I put her ahead of me, but that's okay, you're quite understandable. And thank you so much also for being here, Professor Watao, for gracing this occasion. I know that we had contacted you within a very short notice, but you made it. We're grateful. And Professor Awa, who is our PhD coordinator, thank you, Awa, for honoring this. And Professor Ola Adisa, who is, should I say, my chaperone? She's the one that is taking us through here, and other staff present. Anne is over there. Yes. Professor. Yeah, I did. Yeah. Anyway, maybe I should have made it more pronounced. Yeah. Yes. And then Dr. Inusa is also here. He's going to be the chairman for one of the presentations. And Professor Jimo have just walked in and sitting next to Professor Nimliat. You know, I guess they are sitting by way of their specialization. So thank you so much, Professor Nimliat, for being here. I know you are very busy on this occasion. So I will go straight business. And we're going to have the first candidate. Okay, so yeah, I'm still learning. Right, partner Professor Adamu to at least if you have something to say, you can say before we go into the main business.
Thank you very much. Chairman of the session, Mr. Awa, also recognize Mr. Jimo, Dr. Director. I didn't know. Continue. What's too far away? You and Jimo, what is sitting very far away? Professor, continue. You want to apply for another promotion? Receive quality. So, that's staff here. President, students, you're all welcome. Actually, this seminar is going to be presented by two candidates. First one is Fadu Umar. The second one is Livingston Daniel Wakam. And I hope we will sit down and listen to them. Other things like we have the example, thank you, Bob. Thank you very much. I will just say, God bless you all. You're welcome.
Let's put our hands together for. So, thank you so much for that. Welcome. And may I please introduce the chairman? Is going to have the session. And please understand and know that this is directly under his control, so he has the prerogative to tell us on how we are going to proceed. But before we do that, may I also this on the behalf of the candidate. The politicians not really in the order that we have always wanted, but he had a very, very serious issues, and I was the one who gave the head of it. So he had wanted maybe that debate, so I felt, well, since we've already had the content of the work he's presenting, let him just bring this, because this is just a reference. So please take your indulgence not to penalize him for presenting the PowerPoint presentation in the way it appears to us. Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, sir, Professor Water, over to you.
Thank you, the seminar coordinator, the HOD, professors present, the students, and everybody, lecturers, and everybody. Personally, the PhD coordinator was to make a statement too, and I don't think I will skip that responsibility and ask him not to talk. He has to get up and in few seconds make a remark before we continue. PhD coordinator.
Thank you, Chairman. I think you are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
The seminar coordinator had already said that having been introduced, you want to guide us on what to do and how to go about doing it. So I thank you very much for organizing and asking that I say the word or two. Of course, we all know the seminar is part of your engagement as PhD or doctoral students. It's a very important and aspect of your assessment, being that this is where you present all the progress you've been able to make, comments are made, and then of course suggestions given, and perhaps you are required to take those or take a look at those things that have been mentioned. So I think without dragging so much, I will just allow the seminar to continue. Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, PhD coordinator. Now,
He can also say it.
So we also have the PhD coordinator. We also have a word for us.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity given to me to say the word also. Actually, they have the PhD coordinator and the seminar coordinator already said it all. What I would just say is I wish the candidates successful presentation. Thank you.
PG coordinator. PG coordinator. Yes. So, the candidate we have before us is Saliu Danlami Kumar, and he will be presenting his work on assessing sustainable architectural design strategies for flood-resilient residential buildings in Lokoja. This is his third presentation, right? And he'll be presenting his work from chapters 1 to 3. The abridged version of the work has been presented to us in this format, which I believe most of the professors and everybody has. So, please, can you stand up so that yes, so that we start this work ahead? I think we will not waste a lot of time, so that we start the presentation. When my time is 10:12 now, 12 minutes after 10. And we usually give 10 minutes. Is it 15? 10 minutes. 10 minutes. And we have had very able timekeeper that I will take with Professor Badisa to please look at your phone and tell us what time is it so that Daladi Umar and Dalami, I don't know why I keep saying Daladi Umar.
Maybe you were one of them.
So, Dalami Umar, please get set and present your work for us. 10 minutes, please. 10 minutes has started.
The HOD, chairman of this seminar, my supervisors, the PhD coordinator, the seminar coordinator, the PhD coordinator, professors here present, my fellow colleagues. Good morning. My name is Umar Salud Alami. I'm here to present a seminar on assessing sustainable architectural design strategies for flood resident buildings in Nigeria and Nigeria. First and foremost, I want to work my correction matrix. The topic has been edited to what we have right now. It's about developing a sustainable architectural design framework for flood resident housing. So what we have the whole topic. Yes, sir. So as you can see there, now in the background and problem statement, Lokoja is a city that is seated in the middle of what we call the conference, and it is a low-lying part of the state. It's starting with a situation whereby two rivers meet and water is always a situation. We have issues of recurrent catastrophes, flooding all the time. Implementation gap exists between what the status says and what is on ground due to lack of consultation with locals. Then reactive and proactive situations are also a problem in Lokoja. You only see people react to flood only when it happens. There is no proactive measures on ground. Vulnerability issues in Lokoja is very high. 71% of Lokoja is highly vulnerable, while 28% is seen to be moderately vulnerable. There is a need for a paradigm shift, hence why we are doing this study. The aim of this study is to co-develop a context-specific sustainable architectural design strategic framework that will handle the situation of flooding in Nigeria. Specific objectives are as follows: identify and analyze primary causative factors and consequent impacts of flooding on residential buildings, document and evaluate existing indigenous and modern architectural adaptation strategies employed by residents and artisans. Third, evaluate the potential effectiveness and sustainable design strategies that are being used. Fourth, co-develop strategies that can work for Lokoja and formulate a policy plan for implementation and adaptation. Research questions. Focus is on diagnostic, evaluative, analytical, developmental, and policy integration as reflects my objectives. The significance of this study is based on the following. To the academia, it presents data and unsustainable design principles. Practice, it helps to give guidance and design frameworks that designers and architects and other designers can use. Then for the policy, it helps to support national policy adaptation, policy review and adaptation, supports SDGs. Scope of this study. The study is scoped geographically in 5 wards. These wards include Adankolo, Felele, Ganaja, Lokogoma, Sarkinoma. These are areas of Lokoja that persistently have flooding problems. The thematic boundaries is basically has to do with the buildings themselves, not large-scale civil engineering projects, while the integration has to do with the socio-cultural acceptability. Geographical setting. Lokoja, as Avella said, is situated in the confluence of the 2 rivers of Benue and Niger. Climate adaptation, climate projections. By 2050, we are expected to have over 22% rise in intense rainfall. Settlement exposure. Most of these settlements earlier said are exposed to high level of flooding, as the plates here shows. These are 3 pictures from Lokoja flooding over the years. Impact on the environment, structural impact, material impact, displacement impact. Literature review, sustainable design strategies. The following strategies are one of the following strategies are the strategies that this study is looking at. Site and building forms, which are contemporary strategies. It focuses on elevated foundations, amphibious and floating buildings, and floodable ground floors are also strategies we are looking at. Envelope and materials, wet and dry, proving water resistant architecture. From our literature, we've been able to have the following underpinnings from the theoretical frames we use for this research, that have been used for the research. The following theoretical frameworks: socio-ecological systems framework, performance-based codes, nature-based design, vernacular to contemporary adaptation or integration framework. By integrating all these framework, the good parts of this framework, we've been able to have what we call a proposed framework that is named Integrated Sustainable Socio-Ecological Design Framework for Flood Resilient Buildings. Methodology. This research is based on a methodological design of sequential exploratory design, mixed methods. The qualitative is phased into 3. We have the qualitative phase, the quantitative phase, and the integration phase. The qualitative phase snowballs from literature to key informal surveys to focus group interviews, then to indigenous knowledge documentation, while the quantitative phase has to do with household survey, building audits, geospatial or GIS analysis. The integration phase of this work has to do with the translation of these two qualitative and quantitative approaches, co-design workshops where we involve stakeholders in workshops to have interest in the design. Then we now proceed from there to framework development. Data collection. Households, we are employing short questionnaires to elicit data from households. The buildings themselves will be audited using a structured observation checklist, while the other stakeholders will be interviewed. We have key informant surveys that will be done, and the special units will be using GIS data protocol. analysis, plan, validity, and limitations. For the quantitative aspect of this study, we are going to be involving two methods: descriptive inferential statistics, where we use the following tools: SPS, Excel, GIS. While for the qualitative, it's basically thematic analysis, Remain and Vivo, and Atlas. Integration involves the triangulation of what we have from both. Proposed integrated approaches that we'll be looking at: site and buildings and building forms, which has to do with typology; envelope and material, which has to do with the building itself, the physical building and the finishing; then landscape and water sensitive urban design are the approaches the study will be looking at to elicit data from variables. Expected outcome and contributions. For the residents and the communities, the study shall be providing manuals for local adaptation. For the architects and builders, technical drawings and material specifications will be made. For policymakers and regulators, framework for adaptation in building codes will be made. For the academia, publications and validated theoretical models shall be provided. Conclusion: resilience is a non-negotiable part of architecture. We are faced with global warming and climate change. Hence, we need to design to adapt. Integration is key to survival. You can't pack everybody from one location to another because there's flooding. You have to find a way of integrating key elements. Policy to practice. Our research should not only end up on theoretical levels. We are to find ways. The research to find ways to get research or theory into practice. The next step of this research or the research mode roadmap shall be finishing completion of the fieldwork, co-design workshop, framework finalization, policy brief documentation. These are my selected references. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. This limited time frame on you that thing is within the time frame that was allocated to you. That is good enough. Now, we are going to take comments from the few leaders that the work has been assigned to them. And if with those who are given the work, let me know how many of them are here so that we will now know. We will first of all take comment from these people who have the work in their hand. We'll take comment from them, and then I will now make further remarks on that. Only those who have the work. So who are the readers for this particular work? There's only one reader that is present, I can see. No, it's not that mean. We want to know the readers. The work has been given out. See, only one reader is present. If the others are not here, there is nothing we can do. We have to take the only one that is present. We'll take comment from the one that is present, then I will now know what to do next. So, Professor Nuliak is the only one who was given the work and is present here with the work. The others are not here. A few of us still have the work and will also be given the opportunity to make our own comment. Jimmy will not be given the opportunity. So because he's listening very carefully to know whether yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This opportunity for me.
I just want to say.
I think I've been part of this work from chapter 1 to now I'm looking at chapter 3. So my concentration is on chapter 3. But before then, I was looking at the end and I asked this question: what do you mean by co-developed? I don't seem to place what that means and how we intend to achieve that. Then looking at the topic and the aim, I'm a bit confused. You are assessing sustainable architectural design strategies for flood resilient residential buildings. Now, your aim is you are developing a context-specific framework for sustainable architectural design strategies. I mean, this is not clear at all. Looking at your aim and your objective, there is a need for you to look at that so that the aim is able to capture what your topic entails. Okay? One thing I like with this work is the currency of the literature. But I would expect to see how this literature are being translated into what we intend to achieve at the end of the day. Your discussion on your methodology, there is a need for you to define clearly your research philosophy. You need to discuss it at least to a certain level. Then, your discussion on the study area should also include areas, the particular area, the history of flow in that particular area, and then the profile, the vulnerability profile of that same area. It's not captured in the methodology. Your research design section, I was thinking is chapter 2. The way you have written it is looking like you are doing literature review. Methodology, you are telling us what you intend to do, how you intend to go about it, if there could be any reference at all. Maybe you have made a bold statement on what you intend to do, and you are just hinting it to. But when you begin to tell us history, philosophy about certain things, with methodology, I don't think we need that at that point. So you need to provide clearly a structured description of your research, the strategy, the methods, and then the processes you employ in conducting the study. If you look at the methodological framework in table 3, it is not clear. The logic behind it is also not clear. And then, I don't think, looking at that, if I'm to take that, to go and carry out the research, it's very difficult. So the essence of any methodology, the way you explain and describe it, should be such that another person will pick it and give the study. There is no section of the methodology that under an entirely separate section, not me, the way you have it here now. And that will include the types and sources of the kind of data we are using from the study. You also don't have any discussion on field observation and then the building assessment. Those case study building that you have assessed, there is no any discussion on the field observation that will be carried out. And if this is true, does this imply that those components are not considered relevant to the study? I also noted here that in the methodology, we should also discuss the variables and indicators for assessment, the indicators used in assessing the building, as well as how the assessment framework is to be developed. You are also required to provide a clear description of the quantitative data analysis. What you have here is not adequate enough. You need to improve on that. Now, I have a poster here. In form of a question, I said, what happens after all this data have been collected and analyzed? You said you are developing a framework. But when you have collected all this data and you are looking at your aim, developing framework for architectural design, sustainable architectural design strategies, is it for existing buildings or for design of new buildings? Your study has not been able to clarify that. So that if you're looking at maybe the existing buildings, how they have been affected by flow, identifying the kind of design strategies of the existing buildings. Now, when you do that, are you coming to give us a framework for the design of new buildings? If that is what you are intending to do, it is not clearly captured in your form. And again, in developing this framework, are you going to develop an index, a flood resilient index for residential buildings? Is that what you intend to do? If yes, it is not here. If no, then maybe you have a different direction of what you intend to achieve. Or are you going to carry out maybe like a simulation? Identify, because if you are looking at design strategies, the validation of those design strategies matters a lot. How are you going to validate that? That needs to be looked at. That's why I brought the issue of simulation. Simulation can be a process of validation of such strategy. So, in conclusion, like I mentioned earlier, your topic and your aim, there seems to be a kind of a synergy I expected to see, I'm not seeing. So look at it, and then it's either you rephrase your aim or the topic, so that they can be in line. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Other comments and observations can be found in the manuscript.
Thank you very much, Professor Maria, for that candid presentation, and I believe the candidate has taken note of them. Because we don't have other readers, I will devise a method at my own discretion and then give opportunity to those that are around to make their comment. And I will not want it to be rowdy. I will be the one mentioning those that will make the comment so that we go very far. Professor Jeff is supposed to be one of those that should have read the work, but his comment is in writing in the hard copy of the work. So it's not as if we're missing it. Even though it's not here, you will get the copy, you get the hard copy, and get the comments from there. Having said that, we'll ask Professor Jimo, please, it's time for your own comment, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for finding it in your heart to forgive me.
Yes.
Allowing me to speak. All professors present, just have a few contributions. Some of it, this is not the first time we've seen it. Some of it, comments were made earlier when this talk was presented. And as the work is still being presented, I'm still honestly asking myself some of the questions that had earlier been asked. Something from meant to PhD work is contributions to the knowledge. There are certain things I should say earlier, but let me just jump to this. It's contributions to knowledge. Yes, he is saying that how do you validate some of the things you will find out when you go to the site? How do you validate whether they are effective or not? We all know, especially as architects, that some of the ways and I think you mentioned them even before going to the field, that we might need to look at resilient foundation system, maybe design and component materials for the foundation, right? And something that is common, all of us we know when you are talking about structures that in floodplains are stilt structures, so that the building is raised above the anticipated flood level. We all know. I am imagining that these are some of the results or suggestions or validation, things that you said you need to validate, that you come up with. The big question will be this: what is your contribution to knowledge when you are proposing things that we all know is a solution to floodplains? So that is something else that I've been looking at. And also you mentioned the fact that 75% of the land mass area you are studying is vulnerable. According to your data, right? 75% is vulnerable. Like we asked, like I asked you last time, if 71% of the land is vulnerable, then what are we doing there? I think we need to ask the question, because I was looking at maybe you need to. He said I didn't see your the literatures you study. I didn't read them. I guess they know. But I searched through literature how floodplains are related in modern times, and I don't see resilience. Instead, I see a purposeful policy to stay away from floodplains. If you question it, find out what there's an FEMA was not started in Nigeria, it was started in America. You know FEMA. Please go through their website and find out what do they do with floodplains in America, so that it won't just be me that is speaking. One of the reasons why they stay away from floodplains is that they identify floodplains as part of global warming. So in other words, the water bodies are claiming lands that will not take. And they are of the opinion that there are, let me use the word animals, that are inhabiting those areas. So if you now make humans and fishes to live together, what FEMA is saying, there will be problems to start from the ecosystem. Because there will be waste, they will suck away whatever, and the floodplain comes and there are challenges. That is why FEMA, in other times, they ask you to move. So when we, now let me look at it from the point of view of the governor. Imagine, are you a registered architect? Sorry, something, one of the reasons why I'm asking you that, both in school and before you become a registered architect, there's something that we study, it's called Land Use Act of 1978. And the Land Use Act of 1978 says that the land in the entire body of the defined area of that state is totally in the control of the government, right? He can ask persons to move for overriding public safety. So in other words, as a consultant, like you come to Governor, what's his name? Ododo, and he comes to you as an architect and say, look, 71% of Lokoja is uninhabited. What do you think I should do? And you are aware of the Land Use Act of 1978. So what should you as a consultant tell him to put resilient buildings, or for the overriding interest of public interest that the law has given him the powers to do, to move them? So those are the things you need to do. When your work leaves this place, you will go to the faculty. We have a department of land use planning, is it? Urban planning. You prepare for this questions because you need to prove that this 71% is vulnerable. When you still think you can make resilient. You propose to make it resilient. That we are proposing steel building foundation and this. Then you have to look at it from the point of view of human loss. If the buildings, I think I also asked this question, if the buildings are resilient, are the indoors resilient? Will their children be resilient? So, come to do and it comes up, it brings you as make the place, the buildings resilient. And the flood comes, and there are deaths. I don't think as an architect, you be happy with you as a consultant. And you make it come up with, like, okay, I did a PhD in this. Sir, can I solve the problem in Africa? Your PhD says that, can we make the buildings resilient? And he carries it out. And there's serious human loss. You need to look at those aspects. And then finally, I think, and like Professor Miguel said, your work, your topics about flood resilient residential buildings. But as your work goes on, it seems you are shying away from the flood resilience. Because you are looking at policy formulation. Then even if we go on that path, we will still ask you, what is the contribution to this? You need to look at this work as a PhD work, not as a consultant. This is divided, very thin divided contribution.
Thank you very much, Professor Jimo, for that insightful comments. He actually went into the area that I feel specialized, and he has opened part of my mind in that area when I saw your topic. I will still make my own comment when the time comes. I've written it here for you. I understand Professor Jimo very well. His comments opened my eyes to some reality, and we may have to, follow that and then add something. There have to be a change in your methodology on how you approach this topic is valuable, because we can do a lot more. Thank you very much, Prof. I know Dr. Aldo doesn't have much to say, but he's going to say something. He's not going to relocate you from Lokoja to Jos, but he's going to say something. Please, Dr. Aldo.
Just like you said, I don't have much to say, but I just say one of the things. The flood situation in Lokoja, as we all know, has become a challenge that is perennial. And the government trying to find a lasting solution to it, have identified areas that are prone to flooding. To those of you that have passed through Lokoja, you will discover that the Lokoja town itself is on a higher plane. Then when you come to the north of Lokoja, that is the area that is much prone to, that's the area of Kotonkarfi. That area, by government policy, they actually ask the people living in that area to relocate, just like you have said. Because if you also look at the cause or the causes of the flood that we have experienced in Lokoja, it has always been hinged on climate change, or the release of whenever it happens, we say, oh, Nado Dam release. Yeah. And if that, and of course, Nigeria has failed in the policy, because I understand that they have a policy whereby they were supposed to develop or to construct a dam that we accommodate such overflow whenever Nado Dam in Cameroon releases water. But the government has not been able to do that. And I'm aware that it's not even in the pipeline now, for such dam to be constructed, which means that for now there is no solution except relocation from there. And government had not shied away from the fact that that place, anybody who is still living in that place is living there at his own risk. So I believe it's the thought behind this topic is very germane. But my fear, like he has said, is that we government behind the idea, the resilience we're talking about, we will be able to provide solution that will convince government to have a change of mind. So that's the area I want the researcher to look at. Because usually what happens is that the houses in those areas are usually completely submerged. It's different from when you have flood, and of course you are thinking of maybe raising foundations of building at a level that you are sure that, okay, even when there is flood, the substructure can accommodate such flood and people can still. So when in a situation that we normally experience in Lokoja, the buildings are usually completely submerged. So people always prepare. As soon as that time comes, they move out, only to relocate back whenever it does. So this is the area I just want the researcher to look at, so that at the end of the day, you'll be able to make a contribution that is sellable, even to government itself. I think that's all that I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for opening my mind. This has forced me to make this comment. Yes. He mentioned one statement, because I may forget, when people make their own comment, he said, those places, they cannot be relocated in your presentation. He's very firm on that.
Yeah.
Now he's a registered architect, so I know what he's talking about. Before I forget, you must know that it is possible to relocate those people. It is your design now. You have to look at ways of convincing us that yes, it's not possible to. It's very possible to relocate those people, because flood, like I told you, this is my area. Mountainous regions, these rocks, these hills that you see, in planning, that is not allowed. You understand me? That is not allowed. The people are there. So what do we do? So just look at yourself like somebody building on the rocks and somebody building on inside water. Look at this, do very well, and strike a balance. Before I forget. Professor Wright, sir, sorry
Yeah,
for
thank
taking
you.
part of your time.
No, not at all. First of all, let me apologize. You asked me to be the timekeeper, but something I had to address something that was expedient, which would have affected this presentation. But having said that, I just want to follow up the line of thinking of everybody. They have tried to do tourist things in Kogi State that hitherto have not been viable for many reasons. But perhaps one of the things you may wish to consider would be looking at ecotourism from the standpoint of resilience. Government may not want to build those kind of housings for people, regular citizens, but if there's some kind of bioclimatic thing, let me give an example. There's somewhere in Brazil, it's called Curitiba. You may wish to look it up, and it's around the Amazon, and it will rain, and part of the attraction is that, and the entire environment has been built up. Also in Vietnam and Sri Lanka, of course, you know, these are even island nations where they are totally submerged. I think that your idea has a potential, rather than moving away, to engage it. Let me also use the living example that we have. I grew up as a child in Lagos. Floods and Lagos are synonymous. A core Atlantic city is slow, but it has made difference in some aspects, in the sense of the flood breakers and the Atlantic access in. So if you look at it from that, if you look at it primarily from the position of where people are now, and you go with the flow, you may not get much of a contribution to knowledge. But if you arm yourself with things that the people want to hear, how can I make money? Because they are not going to look at it from a humanitarian standpoint. But if you look at the case studies of these countries, and I mention these countries because I deliberately did not mention the edge in what's the name of this country? Netherlands. I not mention those other places because you say that those are first world they quote. Sri Lanka, Vietnam, they have similar kind of mindsets that we do, but they are able to make it work. And the reason is because of the tourism potential. Eco-Atlantic is resilient only because the government has bought it. If you look at the amount of money that has gone in versus the returns, it's very slow economy. If you listen to that NIA presentation this month, on the 9th or 8th or 9th of this month, I think I'll get you access to it so that you see that some of these things, it is just for you to sell the idea, and somebody will buy it if they know that there is potential money or name to be made from it. Look at Napa, look at all those things in Cross River. What's the name of that place? All of those things, they can work, they are not working, but they were made because somebody had a will and it was sold to them. The next set of people are not doing anything, but the structure is there. Hopefully another person with vision will come in and take. But I think this is an opportunity for you to do something that speaks resilience and ecotourism at the same time. I'm not saying change to ecotourism, but that can be at the back of your mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. The seminar committee is sitting next to March, and they are coming to next
wish I could make it a little bit later because I'm supposed to be here an umpire today. So thank you for that consideration. Nonetheless.
Yes. Musa.
Most of the things that are necessary. That's what the consequence. Since I've not read the work, I will just make a comment based on this presentation. I looked at the aim of the when you go to the table we presented here, you can see that the corrections, you said the examiners did not make any comments on your topic. It was made then eventually your supervisor asked you to align it to the aim and make it clear. I think the first speaker, Professor Conti mentioned, talked about the aim. If you go back to your aim, if you look at the aim, let's look at it in conjunction with the new topic. It's a bit confusing from the presentation. You put the heading here. You call develop a context-specific sustainable design strategic framework. Then you went further to write the core aim is to enhance the float resilience of residential buildings in your project. Now, let's look at the title here, Assessing Sustainable Architectural Design Strategies for Float Resilient Residential Buildings in your project. So by looking at this, comparing this, the title and the thing you have here, do you think that you have really addressed that issue? You mentioned in the table again. Does revise the title to clarify, clearly show the aim in the aim and it's clearer. I don't think by what I have here, you have really done justice to the connection between your aim and the research title. Because if you look at here, you are talking about framework. In the title here, the new one you presented, there's no framework here. So I think you should still go back and look at it. What do you mean by co-develop, just as Professor Conti mentioned? And then what do you mean by context specific? What I know in PhD is mostly we use context to undertake the study, you understand? But the context has to have global, broader implication. So that is why I don't advise you to always emphasize this term concept and context specific. You understand? It is not really important in your study to emphasize this context specific. We use context only so that we can focus your research. You focus your research, and then at the end of the research, you give it a broader history, most especially when you use mixed method or quantitative methods. Or if you use qualitative, it's qualitative that always even consider context more seriously. And at the end of the day, you will not generalize, but you can make it transferable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, can somebody have caps on the stage? HOD, please, can you make your comment?
Chairman, you are right. I have just a little to say. Thank you very much. The woman, thank you for the presentation. My comments will be of general in nature. Well, the candidate has demonstrated that the ability to understanding the work. However, I found out that his presentation, that's it, not adequate. Or, yes, it's not adequate. First and foremost, I don't know whether I'm the only one seeing the font in the presentation, especially in the other text. I'm not clear, honestly. And we say this is PowerPoint. But that one is not PowerPoint, maybe it's what? Statement point. No, it's not a PowerPoint, actually. So you need to improve your presentation. And I expect, although it's just 10 minutes period you were given, but I expect a more depth presentation, especially in terms of the nature of these flows that occur in local. Is it only local that you're looking at, or you're looking at other areas? I mean, I don't know. I've seen a sketch over there that shows you've got Nigeria here, you've got Benue here, and then you have Lokoja ahead. Look at it. So is it Lokoja? It's found. It seems it's only Lokoja you're looking at. Am I right? Okay, you're looking at those areas. Yes. All those areas.
Yeah, right. I think you mentioned
is it not too much?
It's within the same state. It's within the same state.
This area is talking about, I think local government, that's
I know. What I'm saying,
how many local government areas is this story?
There are wards.
there are wards.
Local government.
Okay, I thought there are different
Like streets.
areas.
So it's not of the local government.
No, it's only one. There are wards.
It's one local government.
The story, the whole of the story is just one local government.
The whole local, yes, the local government. So these are wards within it.
Yes, I know. What I'm saying is that your story does not cover more than the local government.
Yes.
Your story area
That
does not cover more than
Just
the
one
local
local
government.
government you're looking at.
Yes. This
Is
is
that so?
Yes.
This is the look at
What
look
is
at the area.
what land
So,
coverage?
that's what I'm
It's a big place.
Not more than the local government. Because I was going to ask, I decided to interject so that we will not waste time when it comes to our own government. We are looking at just a local government.
That's not
Less than local government.
You can do it in one building.
You see, you need to because this your map or there like makes you go to more confused than what you wanted to show. Because to me, I look at Lokoja here, I have another place there, I have another one here, I have another one down, I have another one up. So it looks to me like it's a big area.
Yes. It's not this. It looks more.
in terms of area, what is the size?
I think
But you better do that.
Just as it is a local government, where is the local government?
Better do
Just like
that.
average is where it's just like Central, no.
So, but you know one thing, this floor usually have a pattern. I don't know, but I'm not privileged to look at your work. But then, this I just expected for you to focus on very critical areas, in your work. That is what you need to show us in your presentation. I'm not expecting you to mention all, but at least the critical areas that people understand your work. Understand? So I can understand, yes, you have the ability to do that, but then the communication is not adequate. Because I look at, if to me, I look at, say, assessment of candidates' work. You know, I will look at it whether it's very good, whether it's good, whether it's poor, whether it's adequate. You know, I look at it whether it's excellent. I look at it along that line. And for me, your presentation is not. So you need to then you need to make clear exactly focus what are you looking at. And then you need to tell us, for example, what do you pursue sustainable in your work? These are areas that you must explain. This is assessing sustainable sustainable architectural design strategies. So at least even you can select one of the strategies. I'm sure. You have so many of them, but this is what you mean by one strategy.
You can verify.
And this is what you mean.
So I say you should show you on this side.
Okay. So, I don't know. Maybe you could agree with me. Look at the
section.
I don't know.
It's
Okay, it's for the machine. Oh.
I think when it was explained, you were looking. When the slides were explained that what you were seeing is not the normal thing, you were not around when that was explained.
So, that is it. I think I'll rest my case. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I don't know whether I should make my comment, but Professor Lunet seems to. You want to make a final comment?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, before that, let me ask a question on this. These are strategies towards avoiding flood, right?
was living with flood.
Okay, living with flood. Now, did you look at this in depth to understand the impact of the flood here in relation to where you're looking at? There was something Professor Juno raised. He said about 70 something percent. That is something else. So, if you are telling us that these strategies were adopted and work perfectly within that same amount of flooding, that would be okay. But if not, there will be an issue. Now, what he raised, why I said I need to say something is this, and it's for everyone. When you are embarking on a research and you are looking towards a positive result, at the end you might have a negative result, that is still a contribution. So what I'm trying to tell you is this: you are looking at sustainable architectural design strategies for flood resilient residential building. It's possible. The data that will be available for you, the analysis that you have carried out will show you that they can be resilient as far as this area is concerned. What will be your contribution? What will be your conclusion? What will be your recommendation? That this thing cannot work here, the next thing is let them leave. This is crazy.
Yes.
So don't condition yourself that at the end of this study you must design a building that will remain there. That is why I mentioned the issue of simulation. I think it's only simulation that will be able to get the issue of ancestral whatsoever. By the time you call them, you call government and tell them that after this kind of analysis, with all these design strategies that are even sustainable, this building in this location will not stand. Relocate them. And that will be all. So it's not every PhD work that the result is positive. It's not every research that the result is positive. You can have a negative result. What is your contribution? You have made the scientific world know that doing this this is what you will get. Okay? And that is contribution. Thank you, sir.
Chairman has decided to I don't know whether having giving the leader a second opportunity and the opportunity. Or maybe he's still waiting to come to my side. Let me allow him to come to me when he's there.
Exactly. I actually decided to speak you because I know that you have a lot to do. Even after the seminar, you are still going to sit down with the candidate to talk. So, but this is for our own public consumption. So this is time for you to maybe.
Actually, I do not have much comments to make, but I just want to try and relate one of the questions that I think was asked, and then the most recent expression that was made. I just want to cite my case. Perhaps maybe this should be for the hearing of those who have not even started, or those who have already started the journey and are beginning to see that, hi, will I make it? Everybody will make it in any research. The only thing is that the research is expected to come up with just two things. Either it's a positive or it's a negative. So bear at the back of your mind that it's not all your research journeys that will end up being positive. Yes, it is okay, you can condition your mind that you believe if you do this, this will happen. But it's not always the case. Scientifically speaking, as established, if you have an environment that is airtight, which will never be possible anyway, watertight, which will never be possible anyway, if you have a biodegradable material, in the absence of oxygen, that material will degrade and you have methane as one of the byproducts. And methane is an element that is also contained within the cooking gas. That was my probability. The expectation is that a biodigester is an environment that has those conditions. A septic tank, typically speaking, is similar to a digester, and we embark on that journey. To our amazement, it is a no brainer. We didn't get the result desired. So don't bother yourself. Present whatever you have the best way you can. Let the results speak for itself. Coming back to the comment of the last speaker, I would have appreciated you now, of course, wanting to see that you provide architectural designs that are resilient to flood-prone communities. By looking at the strategies are about 4 of them that we have brought forward. As the HOD also said, if I were you, I would have picked one. Completely explore that one. Is it possible that this building can be resilient based on the strategy that is already established? If yes, yes. If no, no. That's all. There's no point of you wanting to defend anything. Let the data, let the analysis of the result, the data, bring out whatever result it is and you present. And I think we move on with your life. Wanting to insist it's ancestral land, people will not want to leave, all that is by the way. If, for example, you pick material or envelope and material that your research is going to dwell on, if we use this type of material and this form of envelope, we're going to ensure that we have less casualties when flood occurs. And mention what somebody also mentioned, yes, the buildings cannot be resilient. But how about the humans? It's not only the building that we're trying to protect. So I think if you can balance this study to me has a very positive way of giving us an answer to a question that where we don't want to ask. But it's a question we must ask. If at the end of the day, these things that you do cannot still survive, people will still die. What happened? So I think leave the data alone, collect your data, do your analysis, whatever comes up, present it, and you move on with your life. Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me to do this.
Thank you very much. Yes, you see, when I was saying, whenever you are talking, when people understand your topic, it elicits a lot of conversations. People will have room to talk. If your topic was upside down, most of us would have been arguing with each other now, not knowing which direction to take. But you see, because we are mentioning flood-resistant architecture, we know what pattern it can take. I have I went for an external examination and a student presented, he said he's designing resilient buildings, story buildings. You know, we started arguing on the method. Is it wind that is affecting it? Is it the structural engineer that should do the work? At the end of the day, we stood where we can. You understand me? But it is a philosophy. It is a research, and you must think along several lines. So, at the end of the day, with this argument coming from very seasoned technical, so to say, you will be able to have a direction in which to go. The two people on my right are the supervisors. So I will just make a little comment and then I will give time or opportunity for other people so that we close the session. All right? Huh?
He's finished.
You want to talk?
No, okay.
You didn't understand him. He said when I finish, then people will make comments.
No.
He said the two people on the right are the
Yes,
supervisors.
Yes, I heard that.
You are on course, sir.
Yes.
Go on.
So, yes, let me make my own comment then I'll allow the discussion to go in directions.
So that's the way I understand.
Yeah, and that's
I will allow the comment to go the direction. Yes. I'm not showing you out. Yes.
I know the HOD is saying something about women.
No, what I said, you should talk first because you are the main supervisor.
So I looked at your work from the literature, from your literature review. The study is trying to balance the traditional method of flood mitigation and the method method. That is the use of, I heard you mention BMA, BIM, and GIS. You know, you mentioned those as and the other one, IO, what? There's one other method again that you mentioned as the scientific method that we are trying to bring to mitigate flood strategies. Well, what my comment is that the strategy will involve building trust between planners, engineers, and the residents, as far as I'm concerned, from my own perspective. So you need to look at this. There should be a validation of indigenous building practices scientifically. This thing that we are doing about it, how have you been able to validate the traditional method? You mentioned stilt. The building is supposed to be raised, foundation is supposed to be raised, and all of them. How have you been able to scientifically assess this to be sustainable? Or have they failed and all that? Building practice, you know, before you build, there is what the planners call a layout. A scientifically proven area that this is a residential building. This is not a floodplain. This is an allowable area for building. The argument that have come out here is that there are certain places that these people are asked to relocate. Now, if Lokoja is a state capital, it means government have said it is, you can't do anything about it. Can you relocate all the people back to Jos? If you can accommodate you. So then you have to build in Lokoja. People have to stay here and build. But the place is prone to flood. And that people must make do with that place and remain there. You, in your own method, how do we live here temporarily before flood will overrun us? Isn't it? You must argue, this argument must come. I have not seen the scientific. Why has this traditional method failed? The place is recognized by law that people can build there. It is the same law that says don't build on floodplain areas. So what do you do? So look for some scientific evidence and convince us with it. Because you just mentioned in your literature, you just mentioned these areas and then you simply went away. So I don't want to take the traditional method bring resilience. and local relevance, while the modern method brings precision and scale. To what extent can the modern method be adopted and applied over a large period of time? This is a research you must study. Now, in these pictures that you are showing, I did see you mentioning, you are mentioning other SOMAT areas. I expect you to show us some pictures. Is it local government? Is it the study area? You understand me? I didn't see them much. So maybe you should have showed us more of those places. You put them on one plate. Only name this PowerPoint. That is why they are all on several pages as you put there, because most of the ones I see here are foreign ones. Okay? Yes, so you need to look at that. I think that is just my own. But you must know that floodplains are not, you are a registered architect, and you know floodplains, there is no way you will go and bring a floodplain and then a building plan will be approved for you. Nobody will do that. Nobody will do it. But you are saying you want to design on floodplains, residential areas. You know that next thing that will not happen. Because Kogi is a state capital, they may relax some of the rules for the people. So you look at the risks between what is permissible and what is, what is not permissible. Let me put it that way. So you look at this. I think I will not go much on that. As many as you comment in the work, so I'll continue. Prof said, I want to skip you. I will not skip you. But let me start with you. Then we'll come back to Prof as the supervisor and the co-supervisor. They are the last people to talk on this one. So, Prof.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank everyone who took time to read the work and those who took time to make comments. We appreciate it. And at the same time, I want to say that most of these comments came during the first presentation of this candidate. Particularly that we had to add design in the title. It was architectural strategies. But we gave way to superior arguments that we should include design. But the holistic nature of the work, as I understand it, is that these people will not leave those areas, and it is not common to Nigeria. A common example next to us here is Angwarukuba. For those who remember, you remember during that flood, that cleared down Angwarukuba, corpses were found in Bauchi and beyond. Some, yes, 1996. Go there now. In fact, it's more populated than it was before. It's a problem. Do we shy away from solving problems? Those recommendations will come for existing buildings, but then we have a framework that will address future designs. There are areas that may not be as flooded as this particular area that he picked in his work. They will make use of the framework, which can be replicated in other areas, even beyond police needs. Those that have the same contextual problems. And I would also want to add by saying that 71% vulnerability of this build are for the buildings that are occupied in those wards that were identified. And in PhD, even if it is one building that he wants to work on, the scope, as long as he will define the scope, it is acceptable. So those 4 or 5 words that he's using, if you look at the population in that place, If we are solving a problem for such a large population, then it means we are contributing to knowledge. During his presentation, you know, the one thing that everybody kept hammering on that I agree with 100% was that after the topic had some changes, we didn't go back to AA, which I even sent a word to say align it with the. So that is an oversight. Definitely, that is an oversight, and we cannot say it's not an oversight. It is. So what other things I want to talk about is when we are talking about planning. If you remember, during his first presentation, in fact, instead of being his supervisor, I was even standing on the other side when I said he kept emphasizing planning. We send him to planning department and we'll get supervisors for you if that is what you want. That's how we expunge it. But in his recommendation, he will talk about them, of course, in his work, but it will come very strongly in his recommendation, so that the work will not be seen to be a planning research. So those are the areas I want to talk about. And then I also agree that the historical background that we saw in the methodology is allowed. You have to have a background to what you are doing. So people, you know, if an 8-year-old cannot read the PhD work and understand, the work has failed before you even start. So when you give a background to some of this methodology, it helps you to understand why this method is chosen as the way out to achieve the end result. And I also agree that in validation, your validation can be negative, can be positive. That is research for you. So nobody should go out with a mindset that we can do this or we cannot do this. Like it has been said before, your data will determine that. And of course, you also have to do your qualitative where you get the views of whoever is involved to be able to give you additional information. So relocation is a very difficult thing. Even look at New Orleans in US. What did not happen there? Where are people there? They are back there. So it's a problem that must be solved. That if these people insist on remaining here, what can we do? We do not shy away from problems because we feel that there are problems. They are doable. At least point out, even if it is the fact that your results say that this is not good, and the people refuse, you have made a point that it is not possible, and they choose to remain where they are. So those are the kind of things that I'm looking at, and so the work is going to address both the existing and the future design, and that is where the novelty comes, as far as I'm concerned in this research, and then of course this book. And this our candidate there, he likes, I think, things after we have agreed on certain things. You know, I don't spare. So this context specific, I think it's a language that is so used to, but we have amplified it here today. So I'm sure after today you will be seeing those context specific. It's just like we get everything you say, and people overflow for it. So it's a mannerism that I think should be addressed, and then the design philosophy must be, like Prof said, must be added. And you know, sometimes you see a lot of things and you assume also that what you have pointed out has been corrected. So when these things come, just like if yesterday was when I had to, I've not even seen your PowerPoint and things like that. Maybe I would have. I just said, okay, to be sure that he's going to present. I said, okay, let me see what has happened. Have you done it and all that? So it's a journey. That's why we say PhD is a journey. So it's a journey, and we continue to refine as we get to the landmark. Thank you very much.
This is one of the first time we're having a supervisor making a very lengthy comment in the work, and you were not spared in the process, the student. So you know that you must go and do some of those corrections that you are told. There are certain things that must be expunged from certain phrases, languages, method of presentation that you need to expunge from there. I saw it too, but I was wondering, you know, research has taken a very big, yes, co-developed, whatever. There are certain things that look confusing. Throw them away. You might have seen them in some other works, but that does not mean that when you don't borrow it and put it inside your own work,
It will
it
not be
will not go
rich.
through. No, just expunge them. Just leave them without those things. That is the novelty of your own work. Give them. It may look dry, but it adds value to your own work. You understand me? Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Nelson. Prof, I had to join you because the next professor has been looking at me.
More than Jimo was looking at you. More than
Yes.
Jimo was looking at you.
No, I jumped you. I was going in a sequential order. But when I saw her, the way she was looking at me, I had to jump.
No, you did well.
Prof,
That's
before they stop my-
procedure.
before they stop my salary. So, it's on that note,
Traditionally, as is expected, traditionally it's expected that the supervisor should, okay, I agree with the supervisor. But since we are in a different mood today, even the order of presentation, everything is in a different mood. So I would like to remind us, the problem is environmental problem, more than architectural problem. And the environmental problem is beyond architects. But at the same time, architects have their role to play in the environment. What is the matter here? What is at stake is that if, because of global warming, if developed countries contributed to global warming measured by environmental footprint, which has to do with carbon dioxide and so on, developing countries have been trespassing, contributing 1.7, let's say, while underdeveloped countries like Nigeria will only contribute a percentage like 0.1, 0.2. So we don't contribute that much to the crisis, to the global carbon emissions crisis, but climate change, yes, I said climate change. But we are unfortunately at the very receiving end. And when I came to realize it, it was so tragic in my mind that it is so bad that we did not do any bad thing, but we are going to suffer more. And yes, we know the weather is changing. There are some abnormalities, once in 50 years, once in 60 years. There are some extremes, which is beyond the average. But the bottom line is that the level of disease is to increase. And continuously, we are going to have problems of flooding. We are going to have, even in my classes, I mean, one of my coaches, because we had a situation where in my own hometown, ordinarily, it's prone to flooding, and they had to do environmental, put in place environmental strategies where they raise the bank of the rivers. My house is at the junction of two rivers. The two rivers meet, so they did a lot. But there was this year, 2 years ago, where normally when we have flood, it is because the nature allows that excessive rainfall. But that year, it tripled, something that nobody predicted, just in that very location. So it happens once in a while that something very, very unusual happens. That you are not prepared, because normally you know what to expect. But coincidentally, I don't know why it happened, but Normally it's one wave and the rain comes, the flood happens, but it happened 3 times. So my family house was affected. That's my parents' house. My brother inherited, but I'm always welcome as if I'm going there. Normally when I go there, that's where I am. So I'm attached to that home as home. So we suffered. And yes, immediately I started educating my brother on strategies. That you should have done this, you should have done that, garage should have been raised, but so subsequently he was already working on some of these. So yes, this topic is very timely. I must say thank you to the major supervisor for mentioning so many things that I'm not needed to respond to. But it's a very difficult topic, but as architects, we are confined to play our own role. In the future, perhaps it will be an interdisciplinary research where planners and architects will work hand in hand. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would just want to say that, Professor Aladisa mentioned something. A core Atlantic city is a reclaimed land. It has no problem. You have a sea in Lagos. You don't only have a river in Lokoja, River Niger and River Benue, the confluence. So if a core is a reclaimed land, government reclaimed it and is building on it, all that you need to do is maybe you look at that strategy, let the land, if you say the land is reclaimed, so if you reclaim the land and adopt planning strategies, these we are talking resilient architectural design strategies will work there very well, because that place is reclaimed. It's known how you reclaim it. Water channels have been made. Proper planning takes place. It's a multidisciplinary kind of approach. You talk about BMI, okay? You talk about GIS. All the professionals, is it only architects that are involved in BMI? All the professionals are there. We are talking about BMI. All of them are there. The planning and whatever. So if you find a way of seeing what maybe your supervisor if that place, if Lokoja or your study area may assume the status of being a reclaimed area, I don't know how you will look at it, but you can argue that let it be a reclaimed area. Of course, nobody is going to locate them from here. We are only temporarily here on earth. We live there for a particular period of time. When flood comes and drive away, sweep all those people away from that area, government will say they didn't ask anybody to stay there. After all, they say they should leave that place. It's not a planned area. But if you live there for 60 years, for 70 years, and nothing happened to you, you pay rent to government, they will be collecting your electricity bill, they will do whatever that you do. But when a disaster happens, that is why we start blaming each other. That look, this is what happened. Then you can live there temporarily. For the flood resistant areas in Georgia, look at this river, this Bilini River that goes through British America. Recently, the government were demolishing those buildings on that area, forcing them to demolish. They were building right under the bridge. If you allow them, they will build right under the overhead bridge. It is newly constructed this thing there. Until government started demolishing those places, then they stopped. So you can see how human beings are. If government had not started demolishing those places, it wouldn't have worked. So, the human behavior is unpredictable. You never can tell. Flood is unpredictable because of climate change and whatever. So you need to look at this, and then maybe in your literature you can add some things that should convince us on why that thing, whether we should leave it that way. But the flood-prone areas in Nigeria are well known, and we know that people live in those places. Flood can happen anywhere. So maybe with these very rich contributions from these team of scholars I don't think I will go further than this. We have another candidate there. So I plead to end this session this way. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And may I take permission to ask the candidate to just sit down, go and sit down somewhere and wait for the next one. And it's been a very, very nice presentation, and I'm so happy about the richness with the contribution that has come. And I would rather thank the supervisors, because when a candidate does so well, no doubt that had come from the supervisor. So a applause would have gone to the supervisor, because actually the candidate, doesn't know much about nothing, And so thank you so much, Professor Evelyn and Professor Ogunshote, for the work you have done. It's a academic rigor that you have done, and I'm really happy that at least we can here witness the fact that you did well. And thank you so much for the other doctoral students. And the comments I am going to make, please listen very attentively. And what I'm going to talk about is what is obtainable at the PG school. We have emphasized the use of the PG guidelines, the handbook, but can we have one house, please? We've talked about the use of the PG handbook, and sadly, that book, you have to exegete it. It's not as plain as you think it is. And if you haven't gone through the process and understanding of what is required of you, that's when you have issues. And you come to the point where the next seminar you may be doing will be the upgrading. And subsequent to that, this work is going to go to PG school. And if you are not very mindful of some of these things I'm going to point out, that is where your journey will actually start. One of the things at the PG school, they will require you to do and look at the handbook. And I had gone through the work, and particularly what Omar had done in the presentation. And the theoretical and conceptual framework, I know we debated about that, but it's actually not one or the other. It's the two. You will be required. And they must appear in chapter 1, sadly. But ideally, it should have been in chapter 2, particularly for the theoretical framework, because that is after you have reviewed the work, after literature review. However, like I say, we can't argue with them now. We just do the needful and perform more righteousness so that you are not held back. Then the second thing is when you go to chapter 2, which is the literature review. Now, the literature review, it's in 3 components. The first component is the conceptual review. The second component is the empirical review. And of course, the third part is the summary of the literature reviewed. Now, I will talk a little bit about the conceptual review. The conceptual review is a deconstructivist approach you give it to it. Now, let me explain. It's like when you have, those of you who have children, you buy them toys, particularly boys. What do? They take the toys apart, isn't it? Usually, or am I the only parent here that experiences that? Yeah. They usually will take it apart. Now, you call it spoiling, but it is not spoiling. They want to understand it. And the only way they can understand it is to take it apart and see how every component fits together. Oftentimes, they will also attempt to put it together. But because they don't understand it in full, the putting together results into the spoiling, which Professor Jimo has said.
That's the conclusion of the
Anyway, let's get back. But I just wanted to give you that image. In the conceptual review, what you are expected to do is to put, pieces or just take the concepts. That's why it's called conceptual review. Your topic has concept, and Omar, if you had listened very well, they were trying to talk about that, the understanding of what is conservation or sustainable architecture. That's your topic, and that's a component that you have to explain. And thank God, a veritable and versatile supervisor that, remember what she said, that if an 8-year-old will read your work and not understand it, then it is not worthy of a PhD work. And the understanding to that is that they first understand the concept. So when somebody reads your topic, what they want to understand, particularly at PG school, because they are not going with this and that and that. Now, your conceptual framework is the relationship of those concepts within your topic, the way they relate together. If there is sustainability in it, how does it relate to the strategies you are talking about? How does strategies relate to architecture and some of those other things? You get the point here. Very, very important. Now that will give you an idea of the conceptual framework, because that now encapsulates everything that you are doing. That's clear, right? Now, the theoretical framework, because we are talking of the, which you dealt with that very well, because these are the theories that, suggest the relationship of the concepts in your work and how they stand together. So you are explaining that, and theories that people have talked about it, maybe we should make the razzmatazz part of the architectural theories, which will, so things like that. I think that's very clear, right? Now, the second thing in chapter 2, sorry, I'm giving the final one, so I will give it in there, Yeah, I will fast forward it, but it's so I just feel that they need to understand this, because this is where the confusion is coming. Now you are distracting me. Sorry. So the empirical review has to do with the studies that have already been carried out based on your objectives. Because those objectives, if you look at them, there are studies, people have done studies within those objectives in your work. So you review those studies and researches. Now in reviewing them, you know exactly what is going to happen in chapter 3, because in the empirical review, you will know the approaches that similar researches have taken, whether it is mixed, whether it's qualitative or quantitative. So by the time you get to chapter 3, which is your research design or methods and material, as the case may be, you know exactly what you are working with. So it gives you a guideline. So please, I want us to understand that. And then you can see by a little explanation I've given, though my colleagues are complaining, you can see the flow, of that, and at least to chapter 3. So thank you so much, and I will wait for another time. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, for this wonderful presentation. And it's been done differently. And the coordinator has succeeded in CSO. I don't want to say that this is the best seminar we've had so far. But it's one of the best, and we thank you for that.
So it's not a seminar.
It's a progress seminar. Can I overrule the question?
No.
Okay, you are the chair, you're wearing an iron shoe, so I'm very careful. Okay.
No, my question is to the chairman. Because I thought you have ended the.
He's still the chairman.
Because if you have not ended the session, I also have a comment to make.
No, sorry. The session is ended. The new
I thought this presentation should have come after the two candidates had presented, because it now looks like it's a one-man problem that is being.
Oh, okay, but
Preparing for the next one.
yeah, the next one, because the next one we don't know when it will end, and we don't have to keep us here for long. So, thank you so much. We will now go into the next progress seminar, and we shall call on the chairperson for that seminar, Dr. Yakto, to please, take the floor. So whatever happens from now is your own strategic design for the progress seminar. Thank you. Let's put our hands together for Dr.
Thank you very much. The seminar. So I'm very grateful for giving me this maiden opportunity to be the chairman in this session. Basically, we are going to try to be fast in the process. First, I will give the candidate 10 minutes, the usual 10 minutes, to make his presentation. I will give the candidate 10 minutes, the usual 10 minutes, to make his presentation. Then we'll go around for comments from the readers first, then the other lecturers that are here present. So the next candidate is by name Livingston Daniel Opako. His presentation is on assessing the conservation of architectural heritage, dealing with digital workflow approach for palaces in Atomela, Edo State, Nigeria. I will now give you 10 minutes. Who will be our time keeper? I think I will give another person, Anuma. Architect Anuma will help us to be the timekeeper.
So, please, sorry, you would be the
What are you changing?
The chairman has spoken.
Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay.
Again, I thought you gave him free.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So,
Process.
It's a learning process.
So, by my own time, I have it's 11:57, 3 minutes to 12. So, Livingston, you can start now.
Good afternoon, head of department, chairman, my supervisors. Okay, morning, 3 minutes to, sorry. Professors present, able readers, and fellow colleagues. Just as mentioned by the chairman, my name is Livingston Daniel Pakalu, registration number 0093. My research is titled Assessing the Conservation of Architectural Heritage, a lean hybrid digital workflow approach of palaces in Afema land, Lagos State, Nigeria. This is my progress seminar 2. Before proceeding, I wish to acknowledge the corrections raised at progress seminar 1. As shown on the metrics, all 8 items raised by the examiner have been addressed. This includes the title clarity, acknowledgement, hierarchy, research questions, ordering, aim and objectives, rewarding, clarification of AI usage, literature review of policy frameworks, DOI, formatting and reader engagement. 7 items are fully completed. The title remains in progress. My presentation today follows this outline. Primary emphasis on methodology, which is the focus of this seminar. Briefly, as background, the architectural heritage of Afema land in Edo North faces 3 converging threats: climate-induced deterioration, urbanization pressure, and severely limited conservation resources. Current practice relies almost entirely on manual surveys and sketches, which are time-intensive and incapable of detecting early structural decay. This research responds to that crisis by proposing photogrammetry, heritage building information modeling, and AI-enabled monitoring assessments as accessible alternatives. The problem is 4-dimensional. First, there is a significant digital documentation gap across sub-Saharan heritage sites. Second, no practical lean digital conservation workflow exists for this context. Third, community custodians are largely excluded from digital governance processes. Fourth, intangible heritage such as rituals, oral histories, seasonal practices remains weakly integrated into any documentation system. These 4 gaps define the original contribution to this research. This research addresses. The central aim of this research is to develop a lean hybrid digital workflow capable of producing decision-grade conservation data for Afema Palace architecture. The aim is pursued for Afema Palace architecture. The aim is pursued through 5 research objectives as seen on the slide, and 5 corresponding research questions and 5 research questions and 5 corresponding objectives. The question being 5 research questions and 5 corresponding objectives. The first asks how accurate are existing analog methods within resource constraint. What effect do skills, resource, and institutions have on workflow outcomes? Now, and finally, how can the framework be scaled? The objectives mirror these questions directly following Bloom's taxonomy logic as recommended in seminar 1. The research is anchored on a dual theory architecture. System theory frames heritage documentation as a network of interacting actors, tools, and institutions, helping us understand why workflow failures occur systematically, not just technically. The unified theory of acceptance and use of technology, 2, provides the lens for measuring stakeholder adoption shaped by performance expectancy, effort expectancy, social influence, and facilitating conditions. Together, these 2 theories are supported by 4 conceptual pillars as seen in the slide: social, ecological resilience, expanded authenticity, community custodianship, and frugal innovation, all of which are critical in a low resource, cultural sensitive context. The literature review traces heritage conservation thinking from the Venice Charter of 1964 to the New Delhi Declaration of 2017 and ICOMOS 2024. 3 key insights emerged. Heritage significance is multidimensional, requiring material, social, and functional values to inform decisions. Ritual continuity and lived practices are authenticity contributors
beyond physical fabric. And global advances in heritage building information modeling. Photogrammetry and AI remain unevenly adopted in sub-Saharan context. This unevenness is the gap this research directly fills. Case evidence from Nigeria, Ghana, Dresden, and Brazil confirms the viability of low-cost digital tools. Notably, smartphone photogrammetry in Ghana, just in Ife here, achieved plus or minus 50 millimeters accuracy and empowered 85% of custodians. In Nigeria, oral history integration into building information modeling boosted community credibility. Boosted community credibility. These precedents directly inform the tool selection in the study. A key analytical finding is that 80% of conservation decisions in this context require accuracy between plus or minus 20 and 50 millimeters. Smartphone photogrammetry achieving plus or minus 15 to 20 millimeters satisfy this need at a fraction of terrestrial laser scanning cost. So TLS is only justified for foundation settlement monitoring, carved element replication, which together represent less than 5% of conservation decisions. This evidence directly justifies the lean approach. 4 critical gaps emerge from the literature. There is a technological workflow mismatch, where tool sophistication is prioritized over efficiency. There is complete contextual absence. No digital benchmark exists in the entire Edo North senatorial district. This is a governance and custodianship deficit, where conservation is acknowledged but never operationalized. And there is a weak, intangible, tangible integration. This research is positioned to close all 4 gaps. The study covers 3 senatorial districts of Edo State, Edo North, Central, and South. We primarily focus on Edo North. We have over 10 palaces have been documented across senatorial zones, which with architectural focus on earthen bricks, courtyards, roof, passages, foyers, columns, and beams. 5 guild guides, 5 guild types contributing to palace maintenance have also been identified. Critically, these palaces are living heritage systems, as seen in the Igwe festival, the first slide, the first image. In Benin, ritual procession in Edo Central, and Abba festival in Nekara and Akoko Edo. Ritual, in Akoko Edo, directly shape field access and conservation windows. Indigenous knowledge must therefore be integrated with, not subordinated to, digital documentation system. I now turn to methodology, which is the primary focus of this seminar. The research adopts a mixed method design, structured as mixed method, case study, data collection, analysis, framework development. This sequence is underpinned by 5 philosophical commitments. The value-based philosophy ensures heritage significance drives all decisions. Pragmatic interpretivism allows flexibility across quantitative and qualitative data. Community-centered ethics places custodians at the heart of the process. A decolonial framework resists the imposition of Western heritage paradigms on African context. And cultural validity ensures all instruments and protocols are appropriate to the AFEMA setting. These are not decorative philosophical positions. They directly shape instrument design, access negotiation, and data interpretation throughout the study. The sampling design targets 90 participants across 6 LGAs, with 15 participants per LGA. The 5 stakeholder categories are palace elders and chiefs, 24 participants selected for a minimum of 10 years colonial experience and ritual oversight authority. Lineage heads and shrine custodians, 21 participants responsible for sacred spaces, maintenance, traditions. Youth girls, members, 18 participants active in class upkeep and smartphone familiarity, which is critical for photogrammetry adoption. And 12%, women's representatives, 12 participants, involved in courtyard maintenance and festival preparation, and artisans, lastly, and craftspeople, 15 participants specializing in laterite masonry, timber carpentry, thatch roofing, and earth plastering. Purposive and snowball sampling are employed to navigate the closed protocol-bound nature of palace access. 5 data collection methods are applied. Sorry.
Your time is up.
5 data methods are applied.
So I will let you take 1 minute.
Okay, the lean hybrid digital documentation workflow is the central methodology and theoretical contribution of this research, as shown in this comparison table. The traditional method offers cultural familiarity but lacks precision and repeatability. Full digital method offer high accuracy but are cost prohibitive and culturally insensitive. The lean hybrid approach strategically therefore combines both, achieving selective digital capture validated by artisan knowledge using low cost smartphones and open source software. The other one talks about the number of weeks the research will run. In conclusion, chapter 1 to 3 are already completed. The selected references underpinning this work as shown. References are available in the submitted reports, progress report. Thank you, English Chairman.
All right, thank you very much for the presentation. So we are going to consider the readers, in which I'm one of them. So being the chairman of this session, I will be the last person to comment. So we are going to start with Professor Jimo, who is one of the readers I was meant to understand. Yes. So Jimo, the floor is yours now.
Chair, sir, and all the professors present, my colleagues, and students present. There seems to be a difference in the topic,
yes,
and what you're giving to us.
Yes.
No, I have. Okay. I've not seen this morning. I think body of the note is the term lean hybrid that was introduced from what I have here and what you have displayed. And in your discussion, I was hoping you make clear what you actually mean by lean hybrid in the context of your work. I guess at the end of my talk, you might need to explain what that means. Starting with your synopsis. Synopsis to abstract, we have basically 4 segments. That is the introduction, we talk about the introduction, your methodology, your findings and recommendations. Simple as that. I can't find out what I use your writing. I see introduction, next chapter is findings, the next chapter is another introduction, then methodology, the recommendation. You need to be careful. Generally with your work, I know I've said this before, but it's the fact, you like spending too much time on complexities. Because where things are not complex, you introduce complexities to them. And I was mentioned when the former candidate was explaining his work. I think it was Professor Camping that said it, that if an 8-year-old child cannot understand your work, then it's not a PhD. Maybe I've said this before, but I said when Odisho Inca did their PhD, if you could understand the PhD, then it wasn't a PhD. So they intentionally made it sure that you don't understand the PhD. So they gave you a PhD. Even up to today, when he talks, at times you might not understand it. You know that somebody that has PhD is talking. But the thing has changed. It's no longer like that.
you must, that's why the whole idea is not being purpose, it's contribution to knowledge. You must be able to see what have you done in the 5 years that even as a child I can learn from. And so starting with the synopsis, I see this unnecessary complications that are all over the place. So I will still urge you as you go on in this work to simplify your work, so that as we go on your discussion, it's easier to see a problem, both you and persons reading. And as you move on to several different levels of defense of this work, you make things also easier. We have seen instances of people who defended their work at the final stage, and within 2 hours they were through. And we know people who, till evening, they were still there. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. In fact, the external examiner had to remove his coat and hang his chair. So why are we, what is the basis of that? Or why are we creating situations that can cause that issue? And some of your, this is seminar what? Progress report. Because of your tendency to write some of your statements you are writing here, it has concluded your work. Heritage, one of the last sentences on your synopsis, it says, heritage conservation depends less on technological sophistication than on workload coherence, community legitimacy, and operational relevance. Then we can as well look at this statement and come to the conclusion. You have concluded. You should accept in your abstract. That's when you can conclude, not in your synopsis. Because this is assuming that the work is concluded, and that is your finding. Then your aim and objective. Starting with your aim. We've said it here several times. If you want to have a good night rest, when you want to write your aim, just look at your topic and copy it as your aim. Nobody will arrest you. And it will work. But when you get your aim, you look at your topic, you send it to AI so that you reconstruct it. And you send it, you bring it as your aim. There are going to be problems. Because I can't see the direct link between your topic and the aim you've written. The aim says the study aims to develop empirical, tested, lean, hybrid, digital data collection work capable of producing decision-grade conservation recommendations for heritage palace architecture. It's not similar to your aim. You can argue that by the time I explain this thing to you, you discover that it's same thing. But there are challenges here. Because the more babush your word is, the more that I can show you that it has 2-3 minutes. But there are simple words that doesn't have 2-3 minutes. If I say come here, it's simple. But by the time you are talking about tested and lean hybrid digital data collection workflows capable of producing decision grades. You see this decision grade? On that day, you and your external examiner can sit on this decision grade. And you explain to each other what he knows is decision grade, what you think is decision grade. What is he doing here? If both of us cannot agree on what is decision grade, how can in a scientific work, any suggestion not be decision grade? When you say something is decision grade, that means it's done well. Is there an option? It has to be done well in a scientific work. So let's not invent and unnecessarily bring in some of these challenges. Instead of finding words and complicating things, like we have said 1,000 times, simplify things. It doesn't make your PhD at all. What we assessed at the end of the day is that, have you taught us or have you learned anything from you concerning conservation of palaces, or general conservation of architectural edifices? That is what we want to know. What are the present challenges? Are there conservative activities taking place?
And if not, if no, why? And basically identify what you're working on. And if it's not taking place, what can we do? Tools available to us so that we can improve it. It's simple, it's as simple as that. So you have to prove to us that the statement I just made can be found in your work. Some of the other remarks are obtained. Two questions now that I want to plead with the chair to allow the student to answer with is that what are you referring to as lean hybrid system? That's question number one. Question number two, you talked about your scope. And is basically, I think you mentioned three local area or is it three?
Senatorial district.
Senatorial district. You can't just come up, you might have a good idea as to why you pick those three senatorial districts, but in a PhD thesis, you must prove it. You must prove the reason why you choose those senatorial districts. Apart from the fact that you want to. Because technically what I'm saying is that you just, well, between you and I know maybe you belong to that senatorial, but you need to prove that why this particular senatorial district. So technically and officially and academically, you need to show why you pick this one. Because basically these are your scope. So you can't just grab the scope just from here. So, what do you mean by this lean hybrid?
Okay. Basically, lean is, thank you very much for basically lean is strictly talking about cost. Then when you talk about hybrid,
you see where
when you talk about hybrid, we're looking at the traditional method of conservation and we're looking at the traditional method of conservation. We're looking at the traditional. Okay, sorry.
To the page.
No, you can let him explain.
No, they didn't.
Don't you have it on your
It's not moving. Your phone.
Well, in your work, I noticed there are plenty of idol worship. Maybe those are the things that are. Did you take permission before you are showing those pictures? They are angry with you.
So the lean we're looking at open source digital tools that are not cost intensive to obtain. You just log in and use like LHB information modeling, like photogrammetry, all are all free. And we're looking tied to the traditional practice of conservation and digital practice of conservation. This is basically what the lean hybrid is about.
Okay. Why the three senatorial districts?
We have the focus is Edo North with 6 LGAs. The 3 senatorial district is to take from a whole to narrow down to my.
What do you mean the whole?
To take from the general. The general, I traced.
Okay, so that tries to save time. How would what would have made academic sense is to come up with some kind of analysis of almost all, if not all, the fallacies you have at the beginning, right? And then look for the key ones that have some key interesting issues that has to do with the culture. Then you start making sense in the sense that you are trying to see how we can do heritage conservation for those key fallacies, those key unique features. Or you might look at it from the point of view of geographical distribution, north, south, and east, or maybe north, south, east, and west. That is how you bring this together. So you can come up with either uniqueness of such fallacies. That means you have to pick from even outside the area, or you look at the geographical side. But if you just mention this you're going to have problems. Because it's obvious to everybody that you find it comfortable in those areas. Scientifically, you are not out. Obviously, like we said, like we suspected, the lean hybrid, you don't really have an understanding of what lean. Apparently, you are looking at the word lean from the point of view of cost. That is not good. Or when you put it in hyphen, lean hybrid, it's not necessarily has to do with cost. So you need to go back and study. In fact, you need to study what it means when I say lean hybrid. Because it's not only used in architecture. In fact, it's rarely used in architecture. It's used in sports, it's used in so many other things. But it's not what I think. That's why I keep telling you, avoid those words. Because your external examiner will circle those words and he will ask you, what do you mean by this? So I really want to know what you mean by this. And you just spend the whole day explaining back and forth because you have created those issues. Some of the challenges you have when you defend this your work, you create it yourself. It's what you write that the external examiner will ask you about. So if you go verbose, he's going to go verbose with you too. And he's probably more experienced than you. So let's just adopt. I know apparently it is your characteristic or something that's unique to you. You just have to learn to tone it down for the purpose of this speech. Don't get for it. It seems you are in the academia, the lecturer. I used to be. Abba! What an embarrassment to us. Why do you mean you used to when all of us are staying here? You mean we are wasting our time? You should have said, regretfully, you used to.
No, it's not, there's no regret.
Making it worse. That is apart.
Okay, Chairman. Not so.
I think, so please tone this thing down. It's straight to the point as much as it's going to help you. It's going to help you. Everybody. So please take note of. I've circled some of those terms that come across there, and you wonder what you mean by it. So, Mr. Chair, sir, thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you for your constructive assessment of the work.
So the chair, please, the synopsis, please. It's very important that you go on just very, very key, fundamental. Because number one, let me tell you something, that's the first year external examiner will read. And you say first impressions are difficult to erase. So when he sees you scatter your introductions, your synopsis or your eventual abstract like that, it means fundamental issues, you have problems fundamentally. Because I found very little places today, they can't do that. At least I am the one teaching them, they can't do that.
Thank you. The second assessor, okay, so we had three. Professor Lekjep is unavoidably absent. So for this reason, his own comments and other things will come from the copy given to him. So as the chairman of this session, I still maintain that my comment will come last. So I will take, I think I will start from my right here. I will follow spatially to up to where Dr. Audi is. No, Jimo has already, exactly, he has something like that. So I don't know if to start with the HOD, the cap is too heavy for me, but I will try to lift it up. So I think HOD can take the turn now to make his comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if I say I'm here sitting in confusion. I don't know whether that might be right or not. But right right from the topic, let me ask, is it a comparison between the traditional implementation and this one you call main hybrid digital? Is it a comparison?
Descriptive and comparative and statistics.
You are doing a comparison. Okay? I see. This word, lean hybrid, that one is confusing to me. Yeah, in fact, it's entirely out of my league. Okay, you explain it there.
It's defined, that's the definition of it.
Okay. Then why do you select Afemen land? Afemen land. Why do you select that? Afema, okay. Afema. You know, I'm not from Edo, so
it's okay. It's okay. The rate at which the heritage is disappearing is alarming.
Yeah, but is it only this land that has this problem?
That is why I went from the international, national, state, senatorial zones to I traced all that.
Okay, so you discovered that this is the land that has this problem. What do
with respect to my research, yes.
Because why I'm asking you this question, PhD has to be scientific. Now, if you look at, you say you are looking at a unit, is it? And I believe a donut does not only contain this
6 years
land.
There are other, no, the entire donut is African land. The 6
Oh,
LGs.
the entire donut.
Yes. 6 geographical.
That's all right. It's a group of ethnic groups, right?
Yes.
Then there are land.
4 sub-clans.
Considered as African land.
Yes.
6 local governments.
6 local governments.
Just like you said in last land.
So they are the highest, they have the highest population there, huh?
They're not necessarily, maybe landmass, but not necessarily higher population. The Edo South has a larger population.
I'm the supervisor. Let me just give you a
Sorry,
little bit of
I think
information
I should.
about Afema land.
I'm sorry. I think I should coordinate this thing properly.
That's a chair.
Let's
so
let's leave it. No, let's listen.
When I come to
When
my
you
comments, I will
come,
give you.
yes. When you come as a supervisor, you can get.
I actually was not talking as a supervisor, I was talking as an Edo
Ah,
person.
no, let's leave it first. Let us look at it from this angle. We are making our comments. Let's allow the confusion to come in. Every confusion, if the opportunity, we can give the candidate opportunity to clarify. If he cannot clarify, it means he is the one doing the PhD. So towards the end, we will give the supervisor can still clarify. Even if we cannot clarify now, at the correction table, we can still make rebuttal here.
It's okay.
And it will still be acceptable. Yes. So
I still have the floor.
Yes.
Yes.
You selected a lot of, how many palaces you selected?
Basically, we're looking at a minimum of 6. Minimum.
How did you come by that?
I explained the characteristics, how I would come about those 6 palaces.
How you come at the minimum?
Age, yes. Architectural significance.
So the 6 is the minimum.
Minimum. That's 1 per local the local government.
Okay. And these palaces, do they have anything unique, or they are just like the same? I mean, what do you mean by unique is that in terms of architecture, some of the architecture, construction,
Yes.
materials,
Yes.
they're different.
Yes, like, you know, if you have read the work, you see that I have a baseline palace. The baseline palace is automatically a heritage building meant to be conserved.
Okay, only one that
No, this is my baseline palace. Now that baseline palace is where the comparative analysis for both traditional and digital will be implemented. Then the posters will be in the other 5 palaces.
don't know, it's a little complicated. But I thought you would also select maybe the main chief palace, for example. The main chief palace.
It's not chief, we call them kings.
Or kings. Yes. Okay, so the main king palace.
Sorry, just make your point.
Yeah, no, I'm running at something because it has to be scientific the way he's choosing what to say. Because I believe probably he has chosen this based on convenience, not to you. Is this scientific?
Yes, sir. I think you did not read the entire work.
No, I've not had the privilege to read the entire. I'm just looking at his presentation. Okay, so the aim is to develop a lean hybrid digital implementation of global organizations. Well, I'm happy because why I'm happy that I understand that the two supervisors you have are gurus in this lean hybrid digital implementation. I hope they will guide you well. I know they will guide you very well. Yeah. But then there are certain gray areas that for me that I need to understand honestly. Because the issue are not issue of methodology. Very, very vital. The method you use in the process of this documentation. Because you seem to be mentioning so many tools. You mention BIM, you mention AI.
Five objectives.
Okay, you mention all these ones, and you are going to do all of them.
That's why it's multi.
I think you need to probably look at these tools and probably select like 3 or 2 of them. You understand what I'm saying? You look at your work, how do you integrate this implementation process work using these tools? I don't know, but it looks like complicated. It looks like you are going out.
Very simple. Very simple.
Oh, very simple. That's okay. I think I'll raise my case here.
Okay, thank you,
I'll raise my case here.
thank you actually for at least for resting the case so that we don't drag so long. I think I will modify the process a bit. I think we shouldn't ask a candidate question. Even if we have a question, we ask a question and keep it. Later we'll give him chance to attend to those questions. So that
Nobody
will progress very fast.
to respond. He's the one responding. Nobody asked him to respond.
At this juncture, I would like to call Professor Watex. Sorry, Professor Watau
I would like to say something. It's only my classmates that are permitted to use that name. And on our platform, when Professor Jingo was introducing me, that is what he used. And all our classmates understood it. You understand me? So we will start paying a fine if you are not my classmate and then you allow that name to be used. So you should know what I'm talking about. If you're on our platform, you understand that one. However, I accept that name. It has been my name, my nickname for a very long time. Thank you very much. Yes, but it comes with a fine. You must look for project and give me.
No, at least
It's an informal name, not
no,
a formal
Thank you very much. It's not only your classmates, maybe your classmates and your seniors.
Okay, yes, my classmate and seniors.
I'm not your classmate, but I've been calling you that for 25 years.
You are privileged to have done that.
Exception proof.
Me, I called the name because I'm the chairman now.
You should consider reading law.
So thank you very much. the candidate, yes, I looked at your work, and what comes to my mind is conservation. You know, in architectural practice, one of the when I was doing my professional practice examination, I read this conservation is one of those architectural practice, yes, that there are buildings that are being conserved, and these buildings are called listed buildings. That you cannot start modifying these buildings until you take permission from the government. In Jos here, one of the listed buildings is the Modena. You know, Modena, what do you call it? Modena and Modena, Union Bank. In Jos, I don't think there are more than 2. Is there any building?
There's not even
Huh?
no.
No, there are.
No, there are 2.
Modena, Modena and Union Bank.
Yes.
1932.
Yes, 1930. Modena and Joseph. I teach urban design. So it's one of those things that I keep telling students. You cannot modify any of those buildings until you take permission from the government.
Yes.
Okay? You are talking about 6 palaces in 6 different local governments that you want to conserve. It's a geographical, yes, I know. That means they are of significant architectural of significance, right? So, if you are talking about conserving those buildings, it means that you have identified them to be of architectural significance, worth conserving. If I understand it very well, they are of architectural, but they have not been, they are not listed buildings or anything, you know. So my concern is architects are not involved in this your palace design. I didn't see any. They are mostly traditionalists that they build those palaces. And what I noticed is that politicians usually come and say they are modifying this building, turning into. Is it that you want to prevent an unethical modification of these palaces? Is this one of your objectives? If not, why are these palaces being changed? If I would use the common man language there, why are they being changed? What I know about a DOA architecture or whatever and palaces, that it is the artifacts that are disappearing faster than the palaces.
Correct.
Right? The artifacts are fast disappearing. And evidence has suggested that some of them are being returned. But the palaces are being modified into modern structures. So are you trying to conserve the modern structures that are being modified, or the traditional buildings that are there that are being changed? You understand me? The model that I'm talking about here is here in Jos. People go there, every tribe goes there yearly to celebrate their day. They are not being changed. So why is this one, this conservation is trying to give me some, what is the real threat? Is it the artifacts or the traditional buildings? You understand me? Maybe you need to clarify this, then you conserve them. Yes, the work is noble. I like it, the conservation. But that if these buildings, if you want to conserve these buildings in the way and manner you are talking about hybrid, lean hybrid digital documentation of these buildings. As they are, how fast are they being taken away from their natural places. You know, you need to clarify that. You understand me? Yes, it's there in the work, right? Good. Because I didn't have a difficulty within the work. That's why I'm asking this kind of clarification. So, you know, that is my own observation about the work. Conservation. And a famous land, you say, is made up of 6 local governments. Palaces in these places are simultaneously disappearing. You notice the rate at which they are fast disappearing. Is it there are no kings in these palaces? Or how are the palaces deteriorating? Are there factors responsible for this deterioration? So you need to yes, you need to amplify these factors and then bring out so that we know that there are factors that are responsible for this degeneration. Is it that you have a responsible king that does not take care of the palace, or tradition is dying, or colonization? We talk about colonization here, it's so something decolonization. You know, then you need to stress this point so that we can have it. Like we keep saying here, when a PhD work is simple enough, it reduces the rate at which people argue. When it is simpler, when a topic is very simple, it makes the whole argument less. But when it is complicated, you see us sweating here, arguing within ourselves and not knowing which direction to go. But conservation is one of those areas that I'm interested in. So I will commend the work, and I will wish that these few areas that I've mentioned, maybe you have to have a look at it. Maybe in the process of presentation, you didn't mention them, no time, whatever, you didn't highlight them. So you may need to look at this and then mention them.
Thank you, Professor, for at least you said you are interested in the area. That's nice.
Yes, conservation.
At this moment, I would like to ask the PhD coordinator, not on that analysis. So now is the turn of our prof. I would say she's the mother of the house. I think her presentation will bring a lot of wisdom. So
would have only mentor.
Yeah, the mentor, the grand mentor, let me even use grand mentor.
You are giving people names.
You are giving people nicknames.
So it's our turn to put in her words of wisdom into his work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I stand on my existing protocol. The heritage is at our hearts. Why? We make that nation to international architecture. In modern architecture, especially in the international style, we have architecture that we call anonymous, and the building could be built anywhere in the world. But this thesis is focusing on tradition, on something that is unique. So we don't want to be anywhere in the world. In Nigeria, we want to maintain our unique tradition, unique character. We don't want to be anonymous. We don't want to be unknown, mixed with others. And this thesis is helping us to preserve our heritage. If we look at Motna Museum, Zbigniew Mochowski championed that. He used definitely traditional methods. So I'll take us to this page in front of us. But nowadays, we know that we could use digital methods, but it's kind of out of our reach. So perhaps we are leaning on lean hybrid approach. But at the end of the day, when we look at title, I am missing one column, and that column should be lean hybrid digital approach. I am missing that because this is what you are using in your work. You said you are using lean hybrid digital. You said workflow, but I can call your workflow approach. So when I want to deduct what you did in lean hybrid approach, and I go and check at your engagement, which you call weak lean, okay, weak lean digital documentation. Maybe I need to be educated.
No, 6 weeks. 6 weeks.
Yes, at 6 weeks.
At
6
6
weeks
weeks.
lean
The time.
Yes, it's a time frame
Yes, ma'am.
for lean digital documentation. But on top, lean, you did not define, you did not give us a tip what are the costs, repeatability, cultural fit for the lean digital documentation. So I don't know, to me, something is missing here. There is a flaw that is not, unless if I need to be final. But generally, it's a good approach because we know that so if we use digital methods, maybe it may end up to be in a way that the very heavy investments we make, and because we are not yet fully prepared to benefit from that equipment, from that knowledge, because the initial investment could be made, quite okay, purchases, people will get high commissions, everybody is happy, and that equipment will be lying down, and people will not be able to use it for whatever reasons there are. I'm sorry to say, the example is the Department of Architecture. We purchased a very expensive plotters.
Yeah, plotters, yes.
But we had problems because it's high in maintenance. So there were issues. Yes, but we are not benefiting from them the way we are supposed to benefit. Though, to benefit from something, even when it is in that instance, perhaps you can see it also in perspective. If you do partnership, if you allow that equipment to be used, perhaps like in Lagos, they had equipment and they lease, the department lease their own equipment to some private enterprise. It was there in the building at Unilab, that they had that center where they were using departmental equipment. The department was having revenue, but it was the private people that were running it. So it's another way of linking like public-private partnership. So you can also look into it because I see also the possibility that it go that way. But it's no doubt we need to use AI somewhere because AI came to stay and we are going to be in us. So it's very good that we are incorporating that. So the work is ongoing. We are watching and we are keen to see how it's progressing. At the same time, I want to pass my comment on the PowerPoint. And a comma in English, it will be also considered a mistake. After your name, you put comma on your title page. So another here or there. And I also want to complain about your Edo State Nigeria, which is basically not visible. Perhaps it will retain the white color. White color, it would have been more visible. And in the same note, I criticized this page, statement of the problem. You can hardly read. So I give it, you left it in white color, maybe you can see it, maybe bolder, maybe bigger characters. But basically, we are concluding that we don't want black background because the moment we open windows, we don't see anything. The slides are okay, but what you printed, there's some faults. You printed some, always printed sample and see what happens. And my comment also is on this illustration because the photo is at an angle. The photo is at an angle, and as a human being, we are extremely sensitive to verticality. As something went on with some horizontal lines, we are not going to perceive as a collapsing balloon. And yes, I understand there's a new style where we snap at an angle. Even a human being, my friend used to snap and put on Facebook that kind of pictures. But here we are still conservative, present buildings, the world with vertical. So what it means is that you rotate graphic, you will use some little portions and bring it and at least present it that way. And maybe somewhere, I don't know where you can still present this, but maybe if you have to retain it, that's the only picture you have. In appendices, some original picture, you can still retain the details of it because you have to lose some of the aspects. So I wish the candidate all the best because we are looking up to the final outcome of this work. Actually, we want to see the benefits and this work. If it is really successful the way it's extracted, it will form a template for any other subsequent heritage conservation. So it's a template. So, being a template, it has to be simple. It has to accomplish its goal. Means the aim has to be of your research accomplished in a way that people could comprehend really what it means. So that being ambiguous is going to be stepped down from the language, like previous speakers were mentioning, and we will see the work as accessible to a simple worker, conservative workers. They are not simple, some are with higher education, but basically they also dedicate the work to some technicians and so on. Because at the end of the day, what we are after is conserving our heritage. Whether we do it in traditional way, or we do it in digital way, or we use artificial intelligence, doesn't matter how we do it. But are you really going to achieve your aim at the end of the day? Are you going to conserve it? And your technique of conserving will it be good enough to be acting as a template to others? So these are my concerns about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. In order to move fast, I will call on Professor Alukampu to give us our own contribution.
Simple. I just have one sentence. Okay. This work has improved from what we have seen before.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I agree with you. Since Dr. Emmanuel is not around, I'll give Dr. Audu the floor to give his own contribution.
It's all right. This presentation is this is the first time we are actually going as going into the methodology. I believe that this work has been presented. We have had about 2 seminars before now, and I know the challenges that have been there. Still talking about you know, the topic, aims, and objective, and all of that.
Blockchain.
Now, I expect that today, even the reader, one of the readers, I had expected that he will dwell on even the new addition that you are bringing into this, which is the methodology. You can see that he's still, you know, consumed by, you know, the technicalities in this work and in the complex nature of the work that eventually he, you know, he finished his contribution without going beyond your aim and objective. So you need to look at that, you know, as much as possible, try and simplify it. I have decided not to talk much about that, but I want to look at your methodology. Your methodology here, you said, is mixed method. Then you went to say case study, data collection, analysis, framework development. So I had thought that when you say mixed method, you would have gone ahead to tell us those methods that you are adopting. You didn't, I didn't see it here. I didn't see it here. Huh? So at least in this your PowerPoint you didn't mention it. So there is need for you to mention it. You have mentioned it, but I didn't have an opportunity of reading your work. But once you say this method, what is expected is that you go ahead and tell us what are those methods that you are, you know, that you are employing for this research. That one is basic. So please take note of that. That is the area. If you have done that, maybe we would have been able to dwell more now on the method that you are using. But with the information given here, except those that have read your work, won't be able to make contributions along that. Like, please take note of that. That's my contribution.
Thank you very much. Okay. I think that you can give your own contribution now first, but then before I do. Or you want to?
Yeah, I will round up.
This session before.
Once we have done that.
Okay. Actually, that's something that we wanted to ask. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just need clarification from this PowerPoint document. I will just look at the research questions and key objectives. I don't know, like the first one, you say analog documentation, accuracy. I don't understand. Is that a question? Sir? Sorry, I'm not asking you. Because the Chairman said you not ask you. So see, I don't know. You need to make that clarification, because you said analog documentation, accuracy within resource constraint, number two, effect of skills, and so on and so forth. To me, I don't understand what type of questions is this. Probably old school. I don't know whether they have changed the way they ask questions. I don't know. It's the same thing with the key objectives. So, objectives, questions were within a wide question, within a how, within a why. You understand me? Make it clear. Objectives. That's what I'm saying. I'm from old school. I don't know whether they have changed. Yes. You see, I don't know whether they have changed the way they ask questions in research now.
I think
so. I don't know.
This one is a straightforward thing. I also noted that too.
Okay.
And then I want what, who, when, where, which, how, this thing, so that I'll ask him if, how do we sorry, where to put those two questions there.
And the second thing is that this one is, I just like the supervisors to keep this at the back of their mind when they are allowed to make comments. This work, from the headings and what he has presented, to me it looks like he is not looking at the physical building himself, or changing or conserving. He is looking at the documentation of this process, of the process of making decision in conserving this heritage building? I don't know, but
Yes,
actually some qualification from the supervisors.
When I go to, I was
Getting confused because
I understand his work in a way. Okay, so I think it's my you have something to add.
So
After that, then you can.
I said,
Okay,
Chairman, I still have the floor now.
No, I think you.
No, when you are
I still have the floor. I still have the floor now. So, you know, these are the things that I think I need clarification, but this one will come from the supervisors. And the issue of methodology, India said this work methodology is very, very vital to this. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, I agree. Methodology is vital.
Very vital.
Okay, clear.
Thank you. No, we are on this slide, so I just added this estimation that the formatting of the text align it left because you can't center you have put the bullets already. So it's not otherwise you have to center with the bullets.
Yes.
Now I actually want to bring us to this page. We've been discussing with Professor
Okay. Okay, having listening to contributions from my colleagues here, I think as one of the assessors, let me just make my comment then to now move further. Actually, truly, I must say that the candidate undertook a serious journey. I remember I was around when he first presented, when he was talking about blockchain. And at the end of the day, the blockchain didn't scale through because it's a new concept and it was very difficult for him to kind of show the architecture in it. So gradually, this thing moved on like that until we came to digital, lean digital hybrids. Actually, I really understood his work, the basic principle behind the work. In conservation, we have the traditional method, which is the manual, where has been where documentation, because documentation is one of the cardinal approach in conservation. So if you are going to look at three concepts in conservation, documentation will come in that. So what is the method of documentation? Basically, we talk about traditional where we use manual means and all these things. Then now with the advent of sophisticated equipment, AI and all these things, we now talk about digital issues. So it is in that that his research is coming out. So because of that, the core of the research, just as I think was it the HOD that actually listened, the core of the research is the strategy of the documentation. He needs to show how these digital tools can be applied and come up with a template that subsequently people can now use to be able to do digitization. So it is based on that concept that he thought of, okay, there's idea we talk about lean conservation, in green, I know in green architecture there's issue of lean, the concept, the idea lean. So that is where the lean came from into the digital hybrid approach. So truly, I agree with most of the comments we made about you because he likes using complex words, so many things that you can simplify, you are complicating it. Most especially the use of words, most of the keywords in your work. Like for instance, if you look at there's this what I underlined. There's some way you even mentioned. You can go to the slide. It's there. You didn't number the pages. It would have been easier. You can see if you go to introduction, where you put introduction and background, you put time intensive. I don't know what you mean by time intensive. The simple thing we know is time consuming, not intensive. So you should avoid using words that are not more standardized. It seems that this time intensive is the operation. Oh, I don't know whether there is any document that is a concept. You understand? And what does it mean? So these are the kind of things that you should try to avoid in your presentation. Like where you say empirically, when you go to your aim and objective, your aim, you say this study aims to develop an empirically tested. What do you mean by empirically tested? In research, we try to gauge. You understand? We try to reduce the use of words that will give us strong affirmation in our presentation. So this simply is for you to say, to develop a lean hybrid digital system. No need to be saying empirically tested. Definitely, of course, when you develop that, you have to empirically test it by true validation. You know, he's from the same place with Patrick.
Very careful.
No, you are being warned. You are being warned.
So you see, truly, I read your work and I see this is where your problems are. You understand? I really understood your work, and I believe the idea you pick has novelty. But your presentation is always bringing so many confusion, and that's why we are taking so much time here. Otherwise, you would have just presented this thing and then we give a small contribution and then we move on. You understand? So, your mode of presentation here, this document is clean, and if you can compare it to PG guideline and all these things, you accept it almost 100%. Because, but when we look at some of the key things you wrote and the keywords and all these things, we try to just minimize the use of all these things. You don't over generalize. You know, when you use AI has one serious characteristic. AI is overconfident. Because it picks information from the internet and it believes in those information. And you tell me that. Yes.
Just hallucinations.
Yes.
That means it lies.
AI will tell you that I strongly believe that this is this. But if you look at it deeply, you will discover that there are a lot of falsehoods inside. So you have to be very careful with that. You understand? AI will tell you that I strongly believe that digitally, a lean hybrid digital approach is the most applicable approach globally. So it's there for you as a researcher to look at it, is it true? You understand? So these are the kind of things you need to avoid. So actually I have just touched with biology little things. What I believe is that your methodology, most of the things I touched under your methodology you talk about sampling, even you dwell on sample purposive sampling approach, which is still okay because a work of this nature, I think purposive sampling will be the best approach, not probability or random sampling. You understand? So actually, some of the questions being raised here, I think he has, in a way, addressed them in the main text, but because he did not really bring the key points in his slide presentation, the questions came up. So to say, you can go back and still look at them. Take note of those questions, go back and look at these things and address what you can address. So your purposive sampling, you even gave the reasons for adopting this purposive sampling, and you went further to show this thing. But let me look at from your table of contents. I look at this. You say sampling techniques. The first thing here is say population and sampling. It means you identify population, then you now, based on that, you now look at sampling frame and then you sample at that point. Then the next thing you went up further to say sampling techniques. I don't know. In my thinking, I think this sampling techniques should come before sampling. Is that what they put for you in that? Well, I don't know. Let me not review about that because they are following the PG guideline. I'm looking at it as a process. First of all, you need to talk about your sampling techniques and this before you go further to do your sampling. Yes. Then you present the sample. So here you say population and sampling. If you say population and sampling, then your sampling techniques will now be under that subheading, population and sampling. You get that? So then you have your instruments for data collection. Okay, that one is not part of the sampling issue. So I think then if you go down to section 3.7, method of data analysis, then you say 3.7.1, analysis of data for research questions. I think it is not necessarily presented that way. Data analysis is simple. You understand? We know that it's a simple thing. You do the analysis based on your objectives. At the end of the day, at the conclusion, you come and show us whether it has answered the research question or not. Right? So you don't need to say analysis of data for research question. So some of the examples I'm giving you now, you have to be careful with your heading, section headings, subsection headings, and all these things. It's very, very important. They are the, I might not even have the time to read the details of your work, but from the table of content, I'll be able to see whether there's articulation or not. In your main writing, even though I do not scrutinize it for that, in your main writing, they always say that the point for a paragraph, you make a point in a paragraph, one paragraph, or you can go to two paragraphs to make one particular point. You understand? And then a paragraph has a structure. If you use AI will not give you that, follow that structure. That is why when somebody writes with AI, you will find it difficult to read the work. For the person that used the AI to write, maybe to be speak for him, you will be thinking that this is
AI does not have emotions.
Yes, and it doesn't know that. Paragraph has structure. Yes. Where you have topic sentence, then from the topic sentence you build up the paragraph. Everything revolves around the topic sentence. You get that? So that is why you as a person, you are trained to write. You write this thing. By the time you write like that, there will be very good clarity in your work. Somebody reading the work, I don't have to read everything word for word. I will just read the topic sentence and see. I see your evidence. whether they support this your claim or not, and all these things. You understand? So then your appendices, if you look at the guideline, PG guideline here, there are 3 categories of things you put there. The first one is instruments, right? Then the second one, data. That's key. Data, right? Raw data and
that's the
yeah. Then the third one is your publication. And if you go to your what you presented here, if you go to your this appendix is A1 to I think A1 to 5. Let me go to your list of appendices. If you go to A1 to A4, these things you have to you should move them, and I think they can go to the literature or if it is using the methodology, literature in your methodology, they should go there. They are not data. Look at them.
A is not data, sir.
Yeah?
A is not data, sir.
Yes, A1.
So
There are no instruments. If you look at A1 here, National Heritage Conservation Policy relevant to digital documentation in Nigeria is not data or instrument. It's not an instrument.
Yeah, it should be in the literature.
It should be in the literature. The same thing with look at A2, A3, A4. So I think your instrument starts from even A5. A5 is not an instrument. Then from A6, you look at from A6, that's where your instrument starts. Then the data will not be here yet because you have not done the data collection. You understand? Publication might be here, might not be here. So that is just that about my comments on the work. But generally, truly, I found this thing, there is no novelty in the work, but truly for now, I cannot clearly say that whether he will deliver on that novelty, because he has not done the data collection, analysis, and all these things. What we are seeing is the methodology. From the methodology, we are seeing a small sign that maybe you will be able to.
At the end of the tunnel.
Yes. So thank you.
That is not
ambiguous language, like mention of Patrick.
Yes.
Is tending towards that.
Those are these things.
That ambiguous. You don't find the words in the dictionary. You don't find the word on the street. You can only find the word in a scope of company.
When he started presenting, I was those eventually I wanted to see whether it's Patrick that is here or not.
Those Patrick.
So you can see now that he's rubbing off in his research.
Notwithstanding, let us progress.
Yeah. Instead of saying confusion, you say halabuda.
The next thing on the next item, next thing we're going to do is first, I will give the candidates opportunity to say maybe to say thank you. Please spare us. Okay. No, I think the candidates should come before the supervisors. The supervisor should wrap up.
The candidates shouldn't speak for now. Spare us the avenue of asking. You will generate a lot of confusion.
We are observing that let the supervisors make their comments. Because, yes, you know that the other candidate did not say anything. So let the candidate not also say anything. Okay. Let the supervisors, we give time to the supervisors to talk.
Okay, since the
yes.
program
If this one will talk, then the first candidate has to talk also.
Yes. Okay.
Before this one.
Well, for me, I thought the candidate would say something first before the supervisors.
That's what we are saying.
But for now, so to say, since
In an
The
ideal
first
situation.
candidate, we have not done it for him.
Yes.
Let's, what is good for the
gander.
is good for the gander. So now, I would like to give the main supervisor the opportunity. Initially, she wanted to say something, but I refused. So now is the opportunity for you to say whatever you say. The floor is yours now.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry that I spoke out of turn. I was speaking as an Edo person, thinking
Yeah.
I would enlighten us, forgetting that I was the main supervisor. So sorry for speaking out of turn. But having said that, unfortunately, the person that asked the question has stepped out. But Edo, when you think about Edo, the first thing that comes to your mind is Benin. Now, Edo State is almost a homogeneous state in the sense that Edo South, we have the Edo people, whom the state is named after. Edo Central, we have the Ishan people, who make up, or Esan as they call it because of the language. Then in Edo North, that is where you have heterogeneous people. No, Edo is Delta now. Now Delta. So basically, like he said, so when the entire culture is being eroded and degraded for many reasons, including the materials that we used to build in that coastal setting. Ironically, one of the most well-preserved examples of Edo or architecture is this Bight of Benin. And the reason is because this is a semi-arid place. Forget about the fact that it rains, but it's very short. So all of these things are being eroded. And then unlike Edo South and Edo Central, where a lot of their things have been stolen anyway and carried abroad and somehow being repatriated and preserved in the facilities that are being developed. We don't have that in Edo North. I was just sharing with him that my uncle, my maternal uncle, is the Oje designate, which is the king of Ora, which is the biggest part of Onwa, one of the 6 local governments. He is not even able to occupy the palace for reasons. There are many funny reasons like that. So certainly a palace without the king is going to be run down. And so all of those things are done. And I'll take you back now and we'll talk as a supervisor. So I'm just trying to educate us as to why this is not I don't believe it's convenient, because even though we are from the same Afemai, we are both Afemai, he is Esako, I am Ora. If he speaks, I'll pick. It's not the same language, and it's not the same kind of architecture. And the problems that are there that need to be addressed are different from the problems in my own, are different from Professor Sati's wife is Akoko Edo. Their own problems are different. So the good thing about Afemai is the heterogeneous nature that will hopefully address many of the problems, conservation problems that we are facing in Edo State. So I wanted to give that as a background, not to defend the candidate. Now, going to that, your comments, I want to thank everybody for your comments. I am really excited to see all of you here because you are only going to make this work better. Yes, so we appreciate your comments on the work so far. Perhaps because Professor Awal and myself are very tech savvy, we may not have noticed the language is jargon for average reader, because we've been using computers for, I think this is my 40th year. We have been using for several years, so we seem to be comfortable with that language. Perhaps if we had used words like blended approach instead of lean, hybrid, it will still convey the meaning and everybody will understand. Yes, yes. Even low tech will be technical for some people. I smiled because, but interestingly, it was only when I got to the methodology part of my PhD that people began to understand my work because I simplified it. So we will work on simplifying. Maybe there's an AI tool that will use language of an 8-year-old so that we will not be sounding verbose and sounding highly technical. We really believe that this work will see the light of day because it is sounding more, what you are hearing is not as difficult as what it is, particularly for those of us that have had the opportunity to work in heritage conservation. Incidentally, this is not the first heritage conservation PhD that I am supervising. So with that knowledge, I know that the language is harder. We will simply work to simplify that. And the technology, again, is not about the technology. Perhaps like Dr. Aldu said, if we had not taken so much time at the beginning of the presentation, the focus on the methodology would have actually come out. But as supervisors, we take every comment seriously. We are particularly taking note of everything you have said, and we assure you that before the next presentation, we will have done, made the adjustments, and it will be, please bring your 8-year-olds so that they will also learn something from this presentation. Thank you very much for the detailed comments. It's an evidence of the seriousness that you have put into understanding this work. I don't know if, well, I don't have any other thing to say, but I hope that we have a better understanding of some of the challenges from the standpoint of DOA. I hope I've not made it more complicated.
The word a lean hybrid digital approach, it's not as if we are strangers to the word lean, but in an academic exercise like this, if a concept, if a term, if a word is explained in a better way, it doesn't matter. This topic, nobody has condemned the topic. Remember, nobody has said that this word is a topic or whatever. It's just that the word lean hybrid appear new to some of us, and we have not asked AI, we have not, but it is, in fact, Professor Damu we're just starting to say that is lean construction.
Yeah.
That is accepted. That means that you are on a better path. It's just that when it is properly explained, this topic, as far as I'm concerned, will remain the way it is. It's just that we just need some explanation.
I believe that we will use simpler language going forward, I think, and then take note of the focus of the presentation. Personally felt you would have spent more time on that. But again, this is a presentation that should have happened in February. There's been crisis and things we've not really had. We've been a little bit away from it, and are not giving excuses. But just to say that now that we are back, we trust that we will give an even more concise presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, the main supervisor, for this wonderful clarification. Even though when you were trying to clarify, the person that asked the question about
yes, it was out.
But notwithstanding, maybe later, maybe informally, you might even try to discuss with him and still make clarification for them.
He asked the question, and most people will understand her explanation. So it doesn't matter whether he's here to speak to something. If the explanation did not, you see, this is academic.
Yes.
If your explanation was something desired, would have said we don't understand this thing. But the explanation, as far as I'm concerned,
is clear.
Is very, very clear. You were explaining that question you asked earlier about the something. It is reasonable. So I think we will rest with that.
So I think so now I will give the co-supervisor the opportunity whether he has something to say or not.
He has something very small.
I know Professor
something very little.
Yes.
somebody Since the main supervisor was speaking, he might likely not say anything. So, Professor Alwan, it's your turn now.
Thank you very much. I think I would like to start by appreciating everybody's contribution as much as Main Supervisor has actually said. The second thing is also perhaps maybe we also have been carried away by the fact that yes, we understand, we believe we have the understanding of the concept and the path and the route the candidate intend to follow. So perhaps we are following him and following him, seeing that he's doing it the best possible way he can, with all the available technology. However, I think also I'm beginning to agree with you that the language have to be softened.
Turn it down.
You need to turn it down. Yes, in as much as some of the terminologies are the standard terminologies that are in current practice today.
Yes.
You may have to get them down.
No.
No, we're not removing it.
No,
Thank you very much.
No.
But I think it's very good. So I also appreciate the fact that what Dr. Albu said. I think we have dwelled so much time and not really seeing and understanding and appreciate the methodology he intends to adopt. But of course, time has not allowed us to see. But he has done significant work, and I think we have confidence in him that he can do it. But most importantly, I think this posture he has of being intimidating in nature somehow, I think he may have to tone it down.
Affront rather than intimidation.
Okay,
It's an affront, not
Oh, my husband is always telling me on the light time at home, are you fighting people? You this Edo woman, why must you talk like this? Especially when we are excited. It's not affront.
It's an affront, not an intimidation.
So I think with that, I think we are on the same page. We'll make as much as possible, we'll accommodate as much as possible the comments that have been made, and I think by way of people making some of the comments, we also see that yes, it's true, this thing would have gone this other way, it would have been better. So I think it's a very rich contribution that we have. Thank you very much all.
Thank you, Professor Alwan. I think at this juncture, my work is over now. So I would like to hand over back to the seminar coordinator. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, PG coordinator. Can we give him a round of applause? And thank you, everybody, for. I have the floor, I think. I'm now the one with the iron shoe. Okay. So, thank you very, very much for the time that you've taken to come and listen to this. And I hope the candidate also, you learned a lot. You can sit down, you've been standing up. Thank you so much. You know, so much to learn. And both academic, both the way we appear, both the presentation and the selling of the idea, because what you are doing here is you are selling to us, you know, this work that you are doing. And it's not just going to stop here, because you will go on with this work. And a lot of your lecturers here, professors, they had referred to some of the works they did for their PhD. So take this very personal, you know, and be passionate about it. However, also understand and know that when you are a good salesman, you don't project yourself too much. You also give time to allow people room to be expressive. So have the mindset of accepting that you are wrong. Even when you are not wrong, a good salesman, you know, is such that even if it's cheap, they can sell, and it's because of their demeanor. So just mellow down. You can do that study on yourself, you know, the way you look, the way, just smile, you know, most of the time. And thank you again for the introduction of some of the words that some of us are learning, you know, for the first time. But remember what I said from the onset, you have to deconstruct. Take those words